So hello everybody. It is me, Demetra K, and it is the Demetra K Show, where we promote Black love, knowledge, and understanding of all things that go on in the Black community to make us an even better people, with the emphasis on even, because we are a great people, but we can always strive to do. Oh, you know what? Hold on, I got something. I was like, where is that coming from? Haha, that was me. Well, we can always strive to do better because we are great people. As I said, but all that other stuff. I also like to say big giant thank you to Donovan, the recovering Democrat Saadiq, as he sits here every Sunday and Tuesday with me, and we discuss certain things. Also like to say a big giant thank you to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, the other side of the conversation. You all are not just viewers, but you are the third co-host, which brings me to my other point, where this year we are allowing people to come on. So you'll see the link, and I actually need to go on to Facebook and post it, or I'll just tell y'all to come over to YouTube. Click on the link that is pinned. I believe it's pinned on YouTube. And if you have something to say, click on the link and you will appear here. I would love to see your face, but if you're not comfortable showing your face, that's all good too. But it'll give you a chance to speak in real time, your opinions and all of that other stuff. So at about 45 minutes into the show, we are going to, I'll say, open up the link so people can come on and speak. So I'll tell you guys when, so pay attention. And what else do we have here? So who else? LMY, thank you so much for subscribing. I love and appreciate you for that. Yanni, how you doing? And UV Inferno, what's going on? So Donovan, what say you? Oh, before we get started, I'm kind of all over the place. We are going to be talking about that of sort of kind of community policing. I'd like to call it that. Some sort of neighborhood watch stuff. And we're going to talk about two situations. One was that of New Era Detroit, and another one of a situation, unfortunately, that happened on last Tuesday. And I'll get into that. So Donovan, what say you?
Well, I do want to say Happy New Year, everybody. I was not able to be here as I was bringing in the new year in Phoenix, Arizona with some of my high school buddies and friends. Had a great time. I did not drink, but I had a great time and met one of our viewers, Miss Anita, who was out there in Phoenix, and she accompanied me to the shindig, and we had a great time. And this Anita is the one that went to Africa, Ghana, and got citizenship, I believe, or Senegal. Sorry, she got some citizenship over there, so she's dual citizenship. But do us a favor. Please like, share, and subscribe. And like LMY, become a new member. That way, when Demetra puts up posts, she could you can see some of the stuff that she's putting up, and some of her great topics. And you can also sometimes see me and her get into it as we take our sides of an issue and discuss it very, 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 very passionately. So it's going to be a great topic. It's kind of new to me. A lot of things going on in the world. We got a new Speaker of the House 15 times. This is the dysfunction that we have in this country now with people that are in power. Unbelievable. But what were the Democrats going to do any different for Black people? Nothing. So we get what we got. Also, there's an issue right there in Houston where two beautiful ladies unfortunately passed away getting a medical procedure in the DR and all this other stuff. So if we got time, we'll probably talk about that a little bit. But within our own community, we need to talk about the topic that is at hand. So Demetra, take it away.
Yes, indeed. And I see someone had popped on, but we're not ready just yet. So if you can come back in like 45 minutes, and I'll definitely give the cue for everybody to start clicking the link to come on, and I'll say what you need to say. And this particular person has a question mark. So if y'all come on, please put your name so I know how to address you. So I want to see your name and some sort of a picture. If you don't want to show your face, that's fine. But yeah, definitely a name. So in the meantime, question mark, I'm going to remove you from the studio, and definitely I'm going to give the cue to come on. So
right. Could you possibly write him or her down if they do come back in the queue, so you can call them up first, since they're jumping?
But they also need to put their name.
Oh, gotcha.
On there.
Okay.
All right, so let's see. And Janelle, yes, indeed, come on. When I give the time to come on, I'd love to hear what you got to say. Don't take courage, just say what you got to say. DDD, how you doing? And Jay, what's going on with you? All right, so let's go ahead and get started for the sake of time. All right, so let's start with, let's say, the first situation that happened in Detroit. I don't know what's going on with Detroit, but, we're going to talk about it nevertheless. So This picture here, as you can see, it is very blurred out. It is blurred out for a reason. Okay, now on last Tuesday, this particular man is blurred out because he received sounds like a much needed correcting, if you will. Now, this man allegedly, I'm gonna say SA'd, so sexually assaulted. I'm just gonna say it once so y'all know what the SA means. A family member. Now, some are saying that it was his own daughter and that he was caught in the act doing such a thing. Okay. Now, the other allegation is that he also did the same thing to his niece. So he was caught in the act by family members, and it sounds like they chased him, around the neighborhood. And when they caught up to him, a neighbor is saying that she saw it, and he was a mess by the time that they got done with him. And another guy by the name of Mark DeAndre, he actually, I guess, owns 7 Mile Radio, and it's actually, I guess, his video, if I'm not mistaken. He says that from what he understands, they stomped the man's top lip off. Just to give context of how bad this man was corrected, for a lack of better words. And so this is, in my opinion, a good example of community policing. Because when we think of community policing, we think of, the police coming in and they're more friendly to Black people in the neighborhood. They don't send the white cops in there that usually does like a Rambo and, just really do the most to Black people in Black neighborhoods. And so community policing, as I see it, is that we police our own, right? And so that man is going to be in a lot of trouble. He is in jail after he leaves the hospital, from what I understand. Okay. Yes, Jay Bubba, well done. Only in America. How you doing? Yes, I say well done. That is, what should happen. Okay, and so this next thing I'm going to show you is a video from that of New Era Detroit. And so let's watch it really quick.
Asbury Park in Northwest Detroit at the People Store, and as you can see behind me, New Era Detroit, they're here to help keep an eye on customers. They'll be hitting a number of other party stores throughout the city. This is sort of in response in light of the murder of Tracy Golden at another party store. And guys, a few moments ago, I talked with the woman who was coming into this store and said that she felt safe because they are here.
See that video of that sister walk out the store unprotected, nobody was around, nobody to make sure that she was okay. That did strike a nerve.
Count Zeke Williams of New Era Detroit amongst one of a growing number of Detroiters saying never again. The brutal murder of Tracy Golden is making many rethink security at neighborhood party stores and business owners' obligations to their customers.
With the situation that happened, it was an eye-opener, as a business owner, and it made me want to step up and to make sure that the people in my community are secure, no matter what.
Travis Brewer owns the People Store on the city's west side and was one of the first to answer New Era's call to beef up security for customers, especially senior citizens and women. Zeke says he's calling on a number of Black-owned liquor and party stores to step up and do their part.
Our communities are responsibility, so we gotta first set the bar and set the standard in our community, and then we expect those who do business in our community, who don't look like us or who don't live in our community, to follow suit. It's just about us holding ourselves accountable first.
Violence at party stores has been a long-standing issue in Detroit. A week before Tracy Golden was murdered, Detroit police say these men assaulted someone inside the Mr. C's liquor store on East Warren and Bishop. Nathaniel Stewart, owner of Inner City Liquor, says that won't happen on his watch.
And my security, what we gonna do most of, we gonna walk elderlies to the car. You feel what I'm saying? We heavier bag, heavier items, cases of water. We can help them with, and just to secure the premises.
New Era says they'll spend the weekend patrolling neighborhood party stores and keeping watch over those going in and out of them.
Safety in our community have to be priority. It's top priority. We've been putting a Band-Aid on the situation for far too long. Been looking for one single source to handle the situation for far too long. It's just about accountability and everybody stepping up to do what they can do.
Back live here at 7 Mile in Asbury Park at the People's Store in New Era, Detroit, still posted up out here. They'll be hitting a number of other party stores throughout the city today and this weekend. In the meantime, police are still searching for Tracy Golden's killer. If you have any information about what happened over at Grand River in Outer Drive, please call Detroit Police. Reporting live in Northwest Detroit, I'm Randy Wembley, Fox 2 News.
Yeah, you know, Randy, you think about what's already been done in Detroit. So many gas stations have Project Greenlight cameras. That's the city's effort. Here we have community members and people who own these stores saying we have to step up too.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's something that Zeke had mentioned earlier and said, listen, it's going to take buy-in from the entire community, and we can't solely rely on one source, say police, for example, to take care of this problem for us. This is our community, our problem, our responsibility.
So again, you saw there, that was that of New Era Detroit. Now, it sounds like they actually have a couple of chapters. One I know of for sure is in Chicago. And so New Era Detroit, basically it's New Era Community Connection, NECC. And they have, you know, several goals from their organization. And one is community programming and outreach. And, you know, for the goal of self-sufficiency, self-accountability, household accountability, community accountability, and economic and political accountability. And basically in regards to this situation, a lot of the situation, they say it's up to the Black man to protect Black women and children. Of course, you guys saw there, they were on post, as some would call it, making sure that seniors and, you know, just, you know, people get to their cars safely, because Tracy Golden, who was 53 years old, was leaving what it looks like a liquor store, and someone followed her, eventually carjacked her after they, you know, shot her in her stomach, and she succumbed to her injuries in the hospital. And so very unfortunate. It sounds like that particular assailant is on the loose. And so I also know of that in Chicago, Brother Tyrone Muhammad. He has an organization that also does a lot of patrolling on the subway stations and things like that to make sure that people are safe. And so if you ask me, this is what community policing, protecting ourselves, saving ourselves looks like. Because oftentimes we are waiting for, as you know, the gentleman said, the newscaster at the end, as someone else to do it, but it is our job to protect ourselves. But ultimately, protecting ourselves and community policing starts at home, right? It starts at home. We need to stop raising criminals. Not saying that we all do it, but I'm just speaking to us as people. We need to stop raising criminals and start raising good citizens, right? People who are conducive to society. And so, Donovan, what say you about what you saw?
Well, I mean, I'm not really surprised that it's finally gone full circle and come back to this, because this is something we used to do back in the day. Black Wall Street and stuff, then when we were having people that came from the mud, literally, you were a slave one day, the next day they said, get the hell out of here, you're on your own, you're free, go and survive. They had to go establish these towns and areas. In these towns and areas, they had to have security because, you know, the Klan is running around. You had to have protection against the Klan and all these other stuff. So, you know, this isn't nothing really new. My question is, when did we fall off and depend on a man in a country that is racist toward us for our security? You know, when did that happen? When, you know, I mean, I heard stories about, let's say, my father. You couldn't just walk into a neighborhood back in the day, and we're talking about two generations removed, baby boomer generation. Even in those generations, you know, they weren't shooting each other, they were fighting and stuff, but you just couldn't walk into the neighborhood without somebody approach you, asking you, what are you doing here? You know, what's happening, whatever, you know. I mean, when you saw a white person usually in the neighborhood, remember, I was raised overseas. Like I said, I'm hearing stories. They were there usually to buy drugs or do something, you know, kind of whatever, hypothetically, from what I heard. So when did all of this stuff start falling off? You know, I mean, so I'm not surprised we've come back full circle. But my question is this: with everybody doing what it is that they need to feel good, you can't tell me what to do. Oh, I'm going to do this, whatever. Is it going to work, and is it going to last and sustain? All the other groups, remember during the LA riots back in 1994, Demetra, what were the Koreans doing when the police were nowhere to be found? They were shooting from roofs and stuff. And guess what? Not one of them was prosecuted. Not one. And how many people died during those riots? About 50 people, unsolved murders, unsolved. They just let it go. So, I mean, we write the blueprint for a lot of this stuff for these other groups that come in and follow. My question is, where did we fall off in our standards within the community?
Complex Blackness, if I didn't already, how you doing? And Big Rich, yes, I am sorry to hear that, especially about Tracy Golden. She was a nurse, from what I understand. Complex Blackness said it. We fell off with integration. You know, when we were segregated, for lack of better words, we have more of a community, right? We looked out for each other, and you know, we were just more of a well-oiled machine. But of course, when integration happened, we scattered, right? We wanted to be amongst them, and so that's kind of what happened. But we need to fix that. And New Era Detroit, and all the other groups, organizations, Black Panthers, all of them, they got the right idea, you know, because we got to remember that Black Panthers actually was one of them, you know, I don't say modern, but, you know, definitely in the 60s and 70s, they were on that page. Let's, you know, save ourselves, right? Let's do for self and all that. And, you know, really just get out there and protect the community. Of course, we know what happened with them, but that's what we fell off during integration. We just, obviously, there's more to it. Of course, you know, the crime in our neighborhoods, there's some that just really don't give a damn. And then there's the dilapidation of resources, you know, especially somewhere like Detroit. We know the story of how it was, you know, basically just destitute. I don't know if it's making a comeback. It kind of sounds like it is, but it was just sucked of everything, right? Housing market, everything, you know, was just bad there. So, of course, the people still live there, but the no resources. Of course, we know Ford Motor Company was a big staple in the community. Sounds like it's no longer there. So again, there's a lot of things going on there. Complex Blackness says, my grandfather ran off a few white boys in his day in the South and in Los Angeles. They also say, my father here in Los Angeles played a part in fighting off white boys to open up Inglewood and other parts. This was in the early 60s. Yes. And we also know that the gangs, if you will, that they're not what we knew them to be now. The gangs actually were more of, you know, community outreach, police in the community and things like that. But then we know the government gets involved and they turned it into something else and caused a lot of infighting. And that's how you have the schism of gangs, you know, end up fighting each other. But, you know, my dad was part of the Slossons back in the day. And so they had their rumble in the jungle type of stuff, but they did other things as well. And, you know, and of course, Bunchy Carter was one of the most notable, I guess, Slauson members. And my dad also knew him as well. All right. And so let's see here. Monet, what's going on with you? Again, in a couple of minutes, we are going to open up the link. If you want to click on the link and speak a word or two or have a conversation with us, we are more than happy to do that. I just want to say, of course, I don't need to tell y'all, but of course, because we are on these platforms, we need to be respectful. Now, kind of watch what we say to some degree. I don't want to bridle your speech per se, but I just kind of want to put that disclaimer out there. So what else we have? Donovan says, where are all those folks talking about we ain't never going to get reparations silence? Well, you know, it still remains to be seen, right? Jan Michael says, exactly, blue. Yep. The Crips, if you will. And Complex Blackness says, my father is a Slauson. I wonder if our fathers know each other. Yes, indeed, says Bunchy was from the Renegades clique of the Slausons. Absolutely. And so, of course, we know now, I mean, like, I don't hear a lot about gangs now. I know that they exist, but y'all remember like in the 80s and the 90s, it was just all you heard about, right? It was just gang this, gang that, gang this, gang that. I know
Boys in the Hood, all the movies were made, Menace to Society.
Yeah, but now, I mean, we hear about it, but not like it did. It's almost like it was a phenomenon, right? Of course, that was, you know, the crack era. It really blew up, for lack of better words, during that time. And
the crime bill Joe Biden wrote that really put a lockdown on a lot of these gang activities in the 90s, with the help of the black pastors in the black church.
Right. Complex Blackness says, what did they call your father? They would have to know each other. You know what? They might have called him Lee. Definitely Walter Lee. I have to ask him, like, if he had a a name that I don't know. I don't recall. He probably told me, I forgot, but I can ask him. But I don't know off the hand. But my dad's name was Walter. So yeah, I mean, but this one needs to be done. So I want to go back to the situation that happened with the man that got beat down, for lack of better words. Now, listen, I'm not trying to indict again that of R. Kelly. Sounds like he's got a lot going on. But if that would have taken place with R. Kelly, because listen, a lot of people knew R. Kelly was doing what R. Kelly did. A lot of people knew, but they gave him passes. They turned a blind eye. It was like, okay, because the gentleman, Mark, the one that I guess put the video out, he says, we need to stop sweeping the stuff under the rug because it happens to boys and girls. It's not just girls, but it's boys and girls. And a lot of times in our community, you know, we know that kind of stuff is going on, but because it's Uncle Bob or, you know, somebody we know, well, we gonna deal with it in the house. We ain't gonna, or what did you do? Are you sure he did that? You know, because you are kind of fast, you know, so we like, basically what I'm saying is we don't really deal with it. But imagine if R. Kelly with a low key got his top lip stomped off. He probably would not have done that again. And Cedronica, how you doing? He said, just like African Bombada. Yeah, so I did hear those allegations that he too was abusive to boys and young men that would, you know, he would be around that would, you know, try to get come into the music industry and all of that kind of stuff. But I never heard anything else as to what happened with it. Was he prosecuted, you know, any charges or anything like that? It just kind of was like talked about. And then it went away. But I'll tell you a story about that. I remember when that was all over the internet and stuff about African Bambaataa. Of course, we know, you know, big time hip hop group back in the 80s and I guess maybe late 70s, I guess. But anyway, so when that happened, I was like kind of skeptical. Like, I wonder if that really happened, right? So somebody that I'm friends with on Facebook inboxed me and he says, I know you're kind of skeptical. He says, but I believe that happened. He says, because I am too a survivor of SA by a family member. In fact, he said it was his uncle. And he says that I couldn't say anything because there would have been a lot of repercussions on both sides. You know, somebody would have went to jail if I would have told what happened. And it was just a lot going on. So he said, I chose not to say anything for a very long time because, for one, I'm a man. And, you know, he's a boy at the time, but he says, I'm a man. And, you know, you just don't want to admit that something like that happened to you because the next thing you hear is, oh, are you sure? Or why did you let him do that to you? You should, you know, did you like it? And so he said to avoid all of the scrutiny, he just didn't say anything for a very long time. He waited till the uncle actually died. And then he told, you know, his family members and things like that. Of course, they were very upset. Said, why didn't you tell us? He said, because he said, I know that if I would have said something, he would have went to hell and whoever sent him there would have went to jail. And he said that was just a lot for me as a young boy to shoulder. So once he told me that, I was like, you know what? You're right. You know, we as a society need to stop saying, well, I doubt that happened to you because you're a man, right? Because it sounds like with the African Bambaataa situation, quite a few men came out and said, yeah, when I was a young boy or a younger man, that I was assaulted by him. So, you know, we really actually just need to start, because there's the saying, right? Believe all women. But why don't we apply that same situation to men? You know, you also have your Eddie Longs, where he was accused of, you know, doing certain things to young boys or young men. I guess they say, I don't know how young they were. I don't think they were minors. Sound like they were close to it. But obviously there was a lot of doubt. The church, you know, it was still busting at the seams. It don't seem like too many people left. And instead of believing the young man, they believed Eddie Long, even up until the time, like he died on the pulpit at the church. He was not removed or anything like that. And so if we're believing all women, and I'm not one of those people that say we should believe all women because not all women tell the truth, should we also believe all men?
You know, the funny thing is, assault is not uncommon in a lot of groups, especially marginalized groups. And I'm not making excuses for it, whatever, but let's be real about this. There have been stories told about this in books, in mass media. And what's so sad, especially within our culture, you can talk to just about, at least in my experience, a lot of our women, and they have some form of assault has happened to them in some form. And it's just so sad that because of our family ties, sometimes, you know, we make the victim the aggressor and the aggressor the victim. You know what I mean? And like you guys said, you know, we protect the criminal because we know the criminal will be taken off the planet, but at the detriment of our own mental health and situation. But look at all the stories that go on to how something of that magnitude happens to our young women and boys, and how it affects their lives later on. Some women, you know, are so totally devastated they get into the game, into sex work really easy. They have kids at an early age. I mean, there's even a rumor, and I was reading a book. I stopped reading it. Aretha Franklin, allegations, allegedly, that her father sexually assaulted her, you know, in the book. What's that other book? I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. I remember I used to read that one. Lady Sings the Blues. There was a essay situation in that one. I mean, and look at how this affects people. They go on drugs and, you know, all kinds of things happen. But what is the saddest thing to me in our community, we act like, I could have had a V8, you know, it's like, because it's so common. So I'm going to say, yes, I believe it is a thing that goes on in our community, and it needs to be addressed and spoken out about and spoken out more. Nowadays, young boys are being assaulted, you know, just as much as I don't know if just as much, but as far as women are. R. Kelly himself is alleged to have been sexually assaulted by a female in his family. So the sad thing is, when it happens to males, and I'm just generalizing here, ladies, when it happens to males, it's usually swept under the rug. You had teachers that assaulted male students. The one kid up in Seattle, the Tungan kid or whatever, and he had like 3 children with the lady, with Laterno. Everybody was like, oh, it's no big deal when it happens to a boy, but it is a big deal because you know, she took his childhood away from him and also engaged in a crime. So very, very, very sad situation. We're going to have to address this. And again, if we went back full circle to the way things used to be, and we kind of handled these things, and it's really sad because like I have female members in my family, and like sometimes I got uncles that are like, oh, he's, you know, something happens to him, he's like, you know, round up, let's go, and let's go handle some business. You know, that's how cut and dry it is.
Yeah, and I should say too, and I'm gonna get ready to open up the link for you all to come on and speak if you want to in about 5 minutes. I'm gonna do it a little bit early. I should say in regards to the men, the boys not being taken as seriously, because there's kind of a glorified culture to that. Man, why you tripping? Shoot, I wish I had a teacher like that when I was your age. Shoot, well, how come I didn't have no teacher that fine, or, you know, do something like that to me? And so I'm not saying it's right, but when it's a man or a boy, it's glorified. Like, oh man, you lucky. Why you complaining? You know, shoot, your teacher fine. Now on the other side, when it's a girl, and you know, it's the other way around, it's like, oh my gosh, you know, we need to burn them at the stake, which they do. But that same energy should be for the woman offender too, right? And let's see here. Jay says it is sad that the stories are self-centered because of they know what will happen, but it does need to be addressed to stop the cycle of long-term dysfunction. Absolutely, you know, and to your point, Donovan, about I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Angela Maya Angelou. I had it
Maya Angelou. Yeah, you got it backwards. Yeah.
I had it in my head. Maya Angelou. Yes, she did address that and said that it happened when she was 8 years old. by somebody that knew the family. And she says, she remembered being in the bed and she saw the police talking to her family, and she can overhear them saying, "Oh, well, we found him in a ditch and he's no longer here with us," for lack of better words. And she said she automatically knew that her people handled him. Like, you're not going to the police station. You're not passing going around here. I also read gosh, why am I drawing the blank? It's old age.
Old age.
Pam Grier. I'm like, what the hell? Pam Grier's autobiography, My Life in 3 Acts. And she talked about that. That happened to her like 3 times. Twice, I think, by a family member and a friend of the family. And, people were just kind of like, well, they're family. What do you want us to do type of thing, right? So, yes, definitely need to stop sweeping that under the rug. And Complex Blackness says, I don't know any dudes who have been assaulted, but I have dated women who have been assaulted when they were younger. It's a lot, and I noticed certain habits with them. I've talked to other men, and they've noticed these habits or behaviors also. Yeah, I would imagine that it would be a lot of apprehension from someone who's had that happen to them, a lot of trust issues. I mean, to do that to someone, especially a child, I mean, you just rob them of so much, which is why I'm not mad that they tried to stomp the lip off of the dude in Detroit that did that allegedly to his own child. Y'all, Tawana, how you doing? Says, when a family member violates a child, the family needs to cut all ties. But that's the problem, though. They don't. In a lot of cases, they revere that family member as more important, and they what they call sweeping under the rug. Well, we're going to deal with this in the house. We're not going to say nothing to nobody. Listen, we ain't going to talk about it outside his family. We're going to deal with it. He ain't right. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to pray over him. We're going to ask the Lord to make him right. And then, they often put the onus on the child to forgive him. That happens a lot in the church. That the person, the aggressor, they get a pass, right? Oh, I get forgiven. But then they put the burden on the child to do the forgiving. Now, the Lord says you have to forgive. If you don't forgive him or her, then you're going to go to hell, right? So not only do they have to worry about the trauma that they experience, they also have to be burdened with, I might go to hell because I don't forgive somebody who did something so horrible to me. But it happens a lot of times too with women and boyfriends. They have a boyfriend come in the house and the boyfriend does something to the kids. And listen, I know another guy whose mom went to the store and he said his mom wasn't even gone about maybe 20 minutes. Left him home with her boyfriend who was kind of new, I guess. And by the time she went to the store and the time she got back, he had SA'd her son. And he said she knew something was wrong with me because it's like my child's disposition is all of a sudden changed from the time that I left. And then, she later found out that day what happened to her son. And the man ended up going to jail. But it's like, yeah, so the man is paying for what he did to your child. But that little lapse of judgment, and he said he was about 7 or 8 at the time, that lapse of judgment altered your son's life forever. So we have to be a little bit more cautious. That's why I said a lot of times that starts in the home before we get to, policing, community policing out in the community, if you will.
Yeah. And another tie, when it comes to men, it's very hard to date, at least for me. And I give advice to other single guys out there. When a woman has daughters, it's very, very hard to date a woman that has daughters, because let's say you're an upstanding guy and you don't engage in all that, but you're not that daughter's father and you're engaging with the mother. Sometimes, for whatever reasons, the child has animosity toward you and allegations could be gone toward you in regards to allegations that you did something to them when it actually really didn't happen. So I'm not discouraging relationships, but what I'm saying is it's a bad situation for all involved. Because I know some people that were told and said that they did something when they actually didn't, and the child actually lied on them for whatever reasons or whatever. And we're not putting the onus on the child, but the point is, though, within our community, we have to get back to policing in some state. And all I can say for women is, please vet You got now today in the modern world where you pay a small little fee and you could do a background check on anybody, and don't get me wrong, some people are wrongly convicted in certain situations, but if I did a background check on somebody and they were convicted on a child something, I'm not saying, whatever, I would have to question them exactly what had happened. Because remember, Demetra, you had a homeless guy that was convicted on a child thing because he was urinating outside, so for ladies, when you've got children, you really got to be careful when you're dating out there in the market, because you don't know who you're dating unless you really start asking those questions.
And I'm getting ready to open up the link. And the same thing is true for men. You're dating certain women that, listen, we've gotten so jacked up. There was a meme actually, or some going around like a week ago. I guess it was this little boy, and he was, I guess, supposed to be handsome, and he couldn't have been no more than 6 or 7. I guess the theme was he was very handsome, and they showed a thread of grown women talking about, what I would do to him, and all this other stuff. And it's like, so we get under the impression that women are not capable of being predators, but they are capable of being predators. So in that same vein, men, if you have a new girlfriend, you need to, treat her like you would treat a man. You don't know what her motives are. And the other thing too, in regards to, you said children lie. Yes, children lie all the time. However, if you get in that situation where a child has lied on you, then I think you need to take a self-examination and say, well, was I ever left alone with that child? Because I tell all my male friends, if you're dating a woman, she has children, under no circumstances be left alone with those children. Don't be left, because I know a guy who he was dating actually it was his daughter's mom's daughter. So it's kind of like his stepdaughter, except they weren't married. So he lived in the house as well. And he said that when he would come home, sometimes the 15-year-old would not be fully clothed. And he said he would go through a whole lot of effort to like jiggle the doorknob and like the key, like, hey, I'm coming in type of thing, to like, in case she was not decent, she would know he was coming into the door. So he said one time he entered into the house with a friend of his. And he said when they opened the door, the 15-year-old was laying on the couch with not a whole lot on. So he said, I was scared. I was scared to be home alone with her, so I wouldn't be home alone. And I said, well, that was wise, because, yeah, it would always be her word against yours. I also have another friend. Work with this guy. His stepdaughters, he has stepdaughters, all daughters, stepdaughters. One day he didn't come to work. So like a week or so later, I'm like, where's my friend? Why he ain't came to work? So somebody told me, they said, I know y'all really good friends. I'm going to tell you, he ended up getting arrested on lewd and lascivious acts with a child. I was like, huh? Said it was a stepdaughter. Now, he never did. I went to visit him one time, in jail to see what was going on. Never told me what happened. But before that happened, he would tell me stories of how one of the stepdaughters be walking around with just the underwear and a t-shirt on. He says, what should I do? I said, tell her mother that she is being inappropriate around the house. See, he was scared to do it because he was like, well, what if she says something? So I don't really know all that happened there. But needless to say, my friend ended up doing some years behind that. So whether he did it or not, I don't know. But the point that I'm making is, men and women, don't be left alone with your significant or your new significant or whatever other's children. In fact, I would advise you maybe to not date a woman with smaller children or, minors, just to protect yourself, right? I mean, I know it hates to be that way, but they more than likely always going to believe the child. And if they don't believe the child, that's still going to be on your name. Well, they heard, you heard that what he was doing was such and such, right? So you're always going to have that on you. So just try to avoid it, right? All right. So if y'all want to come on, click on the link. Love to hear from you live and in person and all that. Just remember, we need to, kind of monitor the things that we say. I know that you all will be respectful, but in case some people want to come on here and clown, I will take you off and I will block you. But I know I won't have that problem, I hope. And please have your name on. Love to see your face. if you're not comfortable showing your face, I understand all that too. All right, and so BPE, Black People Empowerment, how you doing? They say in order to change the game, we can't claim we, quote unquote, are doing the wrong or bad thing. For one, you don't know what I do, so we haven't done anything together, but I am open to do something good, since the vast majority of us, or we, don't know each other and shouldn't assume or project onto each other that we are into something bad. Well, I never said that. I'm saying we in general. I don't know what you are doing. And in that same vein, you don't know what I'm doing. We only know what's going on here. But on this show, we talk as far as a community. So we're not saying that all people in our community are doing this. And we're not saying all people in our community are bad. We're just having a conversation about some of the things that go on in this community. So we never deal in absolutes on this show. That's something I never do. I try my best not to deal in absolutes, because I'm more like in a gray area type of person. Let's kind of examine things instead of saying it's all this or it's all that. So I hope that helps. Facts, not feelings. How are you doing? It says peace and love, family. Leave any woman who have out of control kids is not worth it. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. You also say BPE. If anything, I feel we have to empower each other positively. Yeah, you know what though? I totally agree with you. But there's also the thing called toxic positivity, which means it's, oh, everything's great. There's no issues. Oh, there's nothing wrong. Oh, because we know that ain't the truth, right? Because that only exists in utopia. And when y'all find the directions to utopia, please drop the addy, because I want to go, right? So, of course, we want to be positive, but sometimes being positive and being positive to a fault, I know that sounds kind of wonky, but being positive to a fault does not allow us to have an honest conversation about the things that are negative, right? So I get it. Let's, speak it into existence. We're all this, that, and the other, but we still need to deal with reality. All right. So again, I pinned the link on YouTube. I hope that you guys can still see it. If you want to come on and speak your mind, come on with it. I'm waiting on you. And Facebook, if you all are watching, come on to YouTube and click on the link so we can have a conversation. And hi, Beverly. How are you doing? And James says, women share in the responsibility and accountability for this. I totally agree. Why would you have a man that you just met around your babies? You know what I mean? I get it. At some point in time, you got to have a relationship and, maybe have them around your children, but you need to
go to his house. Go to his house. Don't,
or even going to his house. I mean, because I think you probably have more control over your children at your house. But if you got to start a new relationship, at least have your eyes open. Like, don't be, oh, honey, I'm going to the store, I'm going shopping, watch the kids. Nah, like, come on, really? You need to be cautious. And men, if a woman is so free to leave her children in your care, that should be very telling to you and kind of scary if you ask me. Like, nah, nope, I ain't gonna get caught up.
Yeah, I was dating a girl that had she had 2 sons and a daughter. And I noticed that the daughter was very clingy to me, wanting, I guess, that father figure. So that's something you got to take in mind as a man too, because like I said, some of these young girls, they're looking for that father figure type thing. Cause I guess, their relationship didn't work out. Their dad isn't spending a lot of time with them. But I noticed the girl was really, really clingy to me. And I had to like distance myself because, I'm a nice guy. I like the kids and stuff, but I didn't want to get caught up in a situation where it was something that was a little bit too much for me. But there's a lot of young ladies out there, friends of mine that have daughters that I really do support in regards, but I support them from a distance. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, yeah, whatever. And that's good too,
Yeah. I mean, just use caution, like you have to, you got to protect yourself. You know what I mean? I get it, getting caught up in a new relationship and everything is warm and fuzzy. And you just feel like, I've known you my whole life. I feel like I can trust you, and then you let your guard down and then some mess happened. Another thing is this, as a parent, let's say, I don't know, your child is not telling the truth. They come to you and say, oh my God, Mom, Dad, your significant other touched me, or they looked at me. You almost have no choice but to believe them. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to be that parent that's like, are you sure? You sure that happened to you? because then now you're the bad person, right? You're joining in solidarity with somebody who may have done that. Now they may not have done it, but what do you don't like? You don't have a choice. You kind of got to believe your own kid, I would think. But we know a lot of times that's not the case. A lot of times the other parent, the mom or whatever, is like, you fast, what was you doing? You always wearing these little bitty old shorts and all that other stuff. Want to blame the child for, and let's say too, and I'm just waiting for y'all to click the link so we can talk about other stuff if y'all want. Let's say the child is wearing some short shorts or something that's really, really revealing. The onus ain't never going to be on the child to behave. I'm not saying the child should not behave. The child should behave, but the onus is always going to be on that adult, right? We often hear grown women talking about, ooh, when he grow up, he gonna be fine. Ooh, you better watch your son, this, that, and the other. That's predatory as well. That is predatory. It's not the boy's fault that he's cute or whatever, but then women oftentimes, they do get a pass. Hell. Stop talking about my child. That is a child, okay? And you don't need to be looking or thinking about my son in that manner. But a lot of times that gets brushed under the rug as, it's harmless. And I got so many stories. I know men who have said their first time was with an older woman. One of my good friends said when he was 13, one of the girls that he went to school with, her mama would pick him up at the bus station. And he said they had a thing for a couple of years. He's 13 and he said she was like 32, 36 or something like that. Said that was his first everything. Some grown woman who thought that was okay to have some sort of let's call it what it was. She assaulted a child. It wasn't a relationship. It was assault. But the society, and I'm sure he told his friends and maybe some other people knew, you lucky man, you lucky. But it's like that grown woman shaped his mindset, and maybe not for the better. And I keep it real with you. Later on in life, he was a pimp. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but some would probably say he did.
Well, you look at the repercussions of us not policing ourselves within our own community and with our own families. Look at how that transfers to our workstation. Now, I was in the military for a lot of years, 24 years, and I used to get terrified when my female troops would come to me and want to talk to me, in private or whatever. I really couldn't do it. I wanted my door open. I wanted somebody else there. It's almost like you really, as a man, at least I can speak as a man, you get terrified because you have a lot to lose. Okay, put it like this. You see these young troops that would come in, and of course you got females that want to do work that is predominantly done by men. They want to come into the new field and do it, right? And so I would critique them or say, hey, you're not doing this right, whatever. Well, some of these little nickel slick chicks would, okay, if you're a mechanic, okay, I look at you as a body. I need you to change that tire over there and do what you got to do. This one troop I had, she had nails. She had just got done. She went over my head, told my boss that I was picking on her because she's a female and she had just got her nails done and stuff like this. Well, what the hell are you doing being an aircraft mechanic if you can't do your job, which is going to pop her nails off, which I didn't care. But this is the job you signed up for. And so I would get terrified. As my career went on, I would get totally terrified by these women because it's like, no matter what you do, the key phrase, believe all women, it was like you're just targeted to where they have the power now to put this over your head and make an allegation. And in the military, when a woman makes an allegation against you, especially if you're an officer, that could be career killer. And, so, it's just like children and stuff within our families, teenage girls, teenage boys, they kind of know the envelopes that they can push and then they try to do that. And it's just so sad that, knowing these things, it's weaponized. It's weaponized against innocent people. It's weaponized, to where they use that as leverage to do it. And, and the sad thing is, even though I did nothing wrong to this troop, other than having her do her job, my supervisor, who was also terrified, let her get away with it.
Yep. Yes, indeed. I'm going to go back to this. And Joanne, how are you doing today? You say children do lie. Sometimes they just don't like the other person and know the consequences of their accusations. And that is, I totally agree with you. Sometimes children do lie. And sometimes it's for attention. And like you said, they just don't like the other person. I'm going to get rid of them, type of thing. I know somebody who didn't like any of their mother's boyfriends at all. And he would do all he could to run them off. Not nothing like that, of course, but just being a terror, doing the most. And the men were like, hey, baby, you fine and everything, but your son, I'm good. So he said, I didn't want nobody with my mama. So he did everything that he can. And so again, I just think, what did they say? Something about caution or whatever. But it's better just to be cautious. Like, protect yourself. Don't be left alone in that situation. If the mama ain't in the room with the kids, you ain't in the room with the kids either. We moving as a unit, boo-boo. Wherever you go, I'm going right with you. You ain't going to take no shower while me and the children are playing. None of that kind of stuff. And I know that sounds really extreme, but at what cost do you protect yourself? I had another friend. He said he went over to his friend's house. The friend was a stepdad, and he said he was waiting on him to get ready. It was early in the morning, so he said he's sitting on the couch, and the teenage girl walks through the house with her underwear on and a t-shirt, and he said he was just frozen in fear, like, oh my God, because he says, I know she know I was there, and she had to walk out of the hallway to pass me, and she just kept going like no big deal. So he said he immediately jumped up and ran outside. And the friend was like, what happened? And he said he told him. And so he went in there, and told the mom and all that other stuff. But he said, I was horrified. Like, I was so scared. Like, I was really just minding my business there. She comes walking through there. But he said, just all these things came running through my head. Like, oh, my God. What if she would have said, oh, he was looking at me, or whatever. So he was just freaked out. I said, well, hell, you freaked out. What you think your stepdaddy potentially going through?
Yes,
so
exactly. Well, let me ask you this question in regards to patrolling ourselves and policing ourselves. What do you think are some of the repercussions? I mean, I think it's a good idea in theory if it's done correctly and it's empowered by something. But if we're just out there vigilante patrolling, what are some of the blowback that could happen with that?
So you're talking about like that of New Era Detroit, the vigilante?
Yeah, well, the vigilante.
See, but the thing is that a vigilante is somebody who was out there getting some get back, right? Like Death Wish, Charles Bronson type of stuff, right? That's like a vigilante, but they're more or less like a neighborhood watch. We are going to stop it before it gets to the point of one of us having to be a vigilante. We're going to stand post. They do that a lot in the nation as well. They stand post to make sure everything is right. The security, right? So that's how basically what it is. We're providing security so that people from the neighborhood can go into these liquor stores, grocery stores, these moms and these, anybody should be able to go in their children and not have to worry about being followed or something happening to us. So they're saying us as Black men, we are asserting a presence in the community so that anybody is going to try some funky stuff, you're going to have to try it with us first, right? So vigilante is, we
I know the difference, but what I'm saying is if you don't have the training and the power, because even security guards, they are to observe and report. They really can't do much other than that because they don't have the law enforcement background or the credentials to effect an arrest, to touch somebody. Because let's say we're out there, right, and we see a guy doing it, and we grab him and we detain him. That's kidnapping because you don't have the power of a peace officer to arrest. So what I'm saying is, wouldn't we run into a lot of that type of problems within the community by doing that?
I would say not really, because there's a thing called citizen's arrest. So, and DDD, if I'm not mistaken, you're a lawyer, you can correct me on this. There's a thing called citizen's arrest. So if somebody is doing something that is unlawful, they can legally be detained by a citizen, hence the word citizen arrest. So in that case, if they come across somebody who was doing something unlawful, then, they can do what they need to do. But most definitely, hey, Black Agenda, I'm going to bring you on just a second. Most definitely, if somebody is harming somebody, I think it's almost kind of, I don't want to say a duty because you're not legally, you don't legally have to help people, but I don't think anybody would be mad at you for being a good Samaritan. And that's kind of what they're doing. So let's see here. And DDD says, what about the fitness project? As far as me doing a fitness project, I'm still thinking about it. And Joanne, you says, this teenage girl knew exactly what she was doing. Some children are innocent. He says, you did a correction, are not innocent. And he says, face the fact she's competing with her mom. Oh, definitely. I totally agree with you. But she goes and says, he did something to me. The mom's kind of in the rock and a hard place. I kind of got to believe her to further notice. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. It'd be the onus to be on the person, not to put yourself in that situation as much as possible. All right. So Black Agenda. How are you doing?
Hello, Demetra. Hello, Donovan.
Hi.
Hello.
What's on your mind?
As a matter of fact, I'll go last. I was just waiting to see if others going to go first before someone goes.
You said you did what?
Yeah, he was waiting to go last. He was seeing if somebody else was going to go first.
And you know what? Ain't nothing like being first, baby. Just get it over with, right? So, you know, what's on your mind?
Yeah. The reason I decided to go last because I understand that. Excuse me, I'm just a little nervous. Just give me a second.
Take your time. We family here. Take your time.
Okay. Okay. The reason I initially want to go last because I understand that excuse me. I totally understand why Hispanics, Asians, Jews, whites oppose reparations for African descendants of slavery. I totally understand. And to answer your question, Demetra and Donovan, because when they see black people receive reparations, right? They're gonna notice that reverse discrimination is going to exist. It's going to come back, right? So when black people receive cash payments, they start hiring their own people, circle their own money in their black communities, and then the Hispanics, Asians, will say, "Hey, aren't you gonna like hire us?" And the black ones said, "Nope, we decided to hire our own people because our people have been traumatized, have been enslaved for over 500 years and counting. So why should we hire someone who is not black in the black community? Because Asians, whites, Jews, Hispanics, and Donovan know this because I'm pretty sure Donovan has emailed Michael Penn. Someone who is a mystery back and forth. If he knows whom I'm referring to, because Asians, how do I say? I'm a little lost for words. Sorry, it's
no, take your time.
Because Asians realize that when black people have power, right? Especially in California, because I understand California is majority Hispanics, Asians. I'm not sure about Jews, right? And I know that the black population is dwindling very quickly, and it's happening so fast that the Asians, Hispanics want to grab control of power, especially in Los Angeles, Moreno Valley, other parts of California. And so that's why they don't want to see black people succeed. And I find that's ridiculous. And then Asians, Hispanics, and whites will experience discrimination from blacks. So I think that's the reason why the non-blacks don't want black people to get reparations. And by the way, I fully support cash payments for African descendants of slavery because you guys have been abused, have been enslaved, have been traumatized for 500 years and counting. And I try not to get emotional. I'm a man. Men don't cry. So
come on now, men can cry.
No, because listen, Demetra and Demetra and Donovan, and of course Phil Scott. I watch you guys so many times. So obviously you know who I am.
Yes, I know who you are. I ain't gonna say your name though.
Okay, right. And I understand your community. You're tired of Jews, Asians, white people talking about discrimination. You guys want solutions fast. Not only fast, but implemented, because you guys are tired of educating non-black people for so long. And I always made sure, and I watched Philip Scott, I watched him very closely, very carefully, and taking down notes to making sure that to show solidarity Asian people, Asians, Hispanics, Jews. It cannot be about, let's be about it. They need to be like, they need to walk the walk, not talk the talk. Because talking the talk is going to delay progress for Black people. I know Black people are tired, sick, and frustrated. I don't remember the first what Lou Hammer said. She said, I think she said, "I'm sick of being tired, of being tired." If I remember the quote uh,
Sick and
correctly.
tired of being sick and tired.
Exactly. Yes. And I just remember. Yes. And and I just remember it just came to my mind and just been thinking about the Black agenda. And I'm sure Donovan, I always have a Black agenda out if you guys want to discuss briefly after the show, because I know that, and I'm just doing a lot of thinking, a lot of analysis, studies, and Donovan knows that in the reparations that I've proposed, Black people should receive more than $20 trillion a year. You know what I mean? Because we live in a different time and the economy is stagnating quickly. And and how do I say this? I'm not good with words, but I'll try my best. That $1 trillion can help a lot of Black people get out of poverty, live a decent life, and definitely try to pass on intergenerational wealth to their kids. And I also understand why your brothers and sisters are moving from America, Asia, Canada, Europe, excuse me, Europe, back home to Africa. I totally understand, because in Africa, it's how do I say this? It's majority Black, right? Sure, there's no racism, but there's classism. But at least for Black people living in Africa, they feel more free. They don't think about being a Black American. They feel like they're being like a human beings. They don't have to worry about police watching their backs, being pulled over, racially profiled, being brutalized. So for them, it's easier to start a business, and that's why in my excuse me comment section, I've been trying to say, what's the best way to get more of your brothers and sisters to explore and travel Africa? And I figured that you had to. There are 54 countries in African nations, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like when Black people want to move to Africa, and like Donovan said not too long ago, you had to find something what fits your values, or what's more compatible with you, right? Because it's just like dating. If you're gonna date someone that you don't get along with, how's that gonna work out? So it's same thing. And I understand that they're conservative and liberal African nations. So I think that for Black conservatives, they'll feel very happy in Africa because it's purely family based. It's very traditional. It's where I don't want to sound like I'm being biased towards a woman, but at least for the Black men, they feel like they're being respected in like Ghana, Sierra Leone, South Africa. I'm trying to remember Egypt, Morocco. I mean, I could go on and on with African nations, especially in the conservative African countries. Whereas as Black liberals, they'll feel more happy in liberal Africa, because at least I understand that you and Donovan don't agree with LGBT, which I understand. But at least for the Black
It's not that I don't agree with LGBTQ. I'm just one of those people that I don't try to make that my issue, because I can only be concerned with what I am doing. So it's not for me. It's not necessarily if I agree or disagree with it, because I have plenty of friends and some family members that are of that community. So it's just, for me, it's just like there's other stuff we should be focused on, I think. But I do agree that there is an agenda. I definitely agree that there's an agenda towards that in the Black community.
Yes, and yes, and by the way, Donovan, you mentioned before about what something that you regretted with Demetra. I think it's on a Tuesday, so I don't remember the topic, right? For not leaving a legacy. And I was wondering if you received my email, how to start a reparations fund to get the ball rolling, because I understand that fighting reparations at the federal level is very challenging. And believe me, reparations should be issued today. Like if I were your president, and if members of Congress fight with me, tell me I can't, I'll say to them, always bet on Black. Don't bet on always bet on Black. And I will fight, believe me. Even if they have to punch me or tackle me down because they don't want me to pass reparations, I'll do it. Even if I have to take a bullet, because it's ridiculous that Asians, Hispanics, Jews receive reparations, land, even without a study, right? And I mean, it's just ridiculous that the Asians, Hispanics and Blacks. I'm sorry, not the Blacks. I'm sorry, the Asians, Jews, Hispanics. I just feel very upset and angry. Although I'm not Black, but I can't tell you my race because it's It's a hidden secret. But and the reason I didn't mention my race because I understand that your audience might think that I might have that I'm going something against the black agenda. No, I'm not. I'm just a guy who's trying to promote solutions for the black economy and the black agenda going forward because it's ridiculous that you guys are tired of fighting every day. And studies show that the life expectancy between blacks and whites, it's widening like over time. It's not getting better, and it's not showing a reversing trend. And I understand because of discrimination of white doctors, Asian doctors, Hispanics, treating black patients differently than they treat Hispanics, white, and Asians. And the healthcare system in America is slavery plantation 2.0, but it's more mental. And so that's why I have it. That's why I say to progressives. So I have issues when progressives tell me that, oh, we can't do reparations because we just can't. And I say to them, but don't you realize that African descendants of slavery will tell you that we can't do America for all either? So both are needed, universal and set aside policies, because either way, Congress, they're going against targeted and universal policies. And that's why I don't label myself as a Democrat Republican, but I'm a Green Party, which I think Donovan is aware of. So he knows Angela Walker. You guys interviewed almost 2 years ago.
Right. Absolutely.
And yes, and in my Black agenda, I'm not sure if Demetra, you got a chance to read it, and Donovan, you got a chance to read it to critique. What do you think was missing in my Black agenda? What do you think I need to expand? So if I do decide to run between 2024 and 2028 or summer running, because you know how the media likes to paint reparations, and I know like the media, you're very good with the media relations, because I'm a bold guy. I'm willing to fight, even if CNN has to label me as a socialist or some who's a radical. I don't care about the labels. What I do think is needed is that the Black agenda is definitely needed at the table, and only at the table, but needs to be implemented less than 20 days. It has to be implemented within like 1 day. Let's say 1 day of today.
Well, I have seen looked at your Black agenda, but offhand, I'd have to kind of look at it again, so we can have this discussion another time. We can talk about it, but again, I can say right off the top of my head, but Black agenda ? I appreciate you so much for coming on here. Very insightful. I know who you are, but I won't say who you are. We definitely love and appreciate your input. You are a staple on the show as a co-host. So thank you so much. But I'm going to let Don come on here. We have some people coming on here now, but thank you so much.
Here, let me just say this on his Black agenda. The one thing about it is, I read it. It's a really bold agenda, but and there's not a problem with it. The problem with it is the time agenda that he wants to implement it, I would say. So in that time agenda, unfortunately, in America, it took 15 days to nominate and get a Speaker of the House. That's where we're at today. So going through the red tape and stuff, there's going to be a mechanism to enact the foundation first to make the system easier. If you became president, you would have to bypass all that, use executive orders, and then run the bill through the House so that it becomes law. So.
You're like that, Donovan. You should catch me after the session today to follow up.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to do that. I said, I'm just super busy, but yeah.
I just say we're busy because Martinez, especially what happened with Martinez.
Oh yeah.
In California, I'm aware. Well,
okay, cool.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. See, that wasn't so bad, was it? Brother Don tried to come on, but I think he was having some connection issues. So yes, you want to come on, just make sure your connection is good, because we want to hear everything you have to say. All conversation is welcome. So I'm going to jump back into the comment section. But, he is, I won't say his name. I'm going to try not to say his name, but he is here quite often on Black Agenda quite often. And I would say that he is definitely invested in the Black community, ADOS, we could say, getting reparations, and he's absolutely right. that is going to take an effort from other communities to help us get that, right? Because like you said, they've gotten theirs in some form. They've got reparations and still getting stuff, right? But it's Black people who continuously get nothing. And it's usually by the people that we vote into office. That's the Democrats. And the Democrats are the ones that are giving everybody else something, but the people who are actually getting them in there, right? So,
and the funny thing is, I know we're going to talk about politics, but real quick, did you guys notice it took 5 people to hold up the Speaker of the House? Now, we have about 58 members of the CBC. Right now, there's only 5 seats between power in the House. That means the CBC has power to pressure legislation right now.
well,
Other groups do it.
But what power do we have? And Don, can you hear us?
I see his thing still spinning. It's still
His connection is bad. I'll give him a minute to try to see if he can come on here. I'm muted just in case it I can't mute him. Well, we'll see if his connection picks up. Okay. So let's see here. Yeah, I mean, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do to make him give it to us, right? Like we always give our power away, whether it's economic or political. So we're not really putting the muscle on them per se to do it.
Well, you got to remember, Black politicians are Democrats first. They're not Black first. It's like having a Black police officer. They're blue before they're Black, and that's the problem. The power is there. Remember, I say it all the time. We've got Black people in positions. We got Tanji Brown in the Supreme Court. How is that helping us? So we've got people in the positions. The question is, what are they going to do? The problem is they are what they are first before they're Black. They're the exceptional Negro, as you always say, versus helping the community and doing the agenda as a whole.
Yes, indeed. The facts, not feelings. I see you, Don. I'm gonna bring you up just a second. He says, I disagree. Blacks will not discriminate against Hispanics or Euros. Oh, yeah, we definitely have the power to discriminate, but now
but we never do. You got all Black business, and you're always going to see other groups in there. But you go to the other group's business, you never see a Black in it.
Yeah, I mean, so we can't. We're very discriminatory. Everybody is, but the power to be racist, yeah, that's another question altogether. Let's see, Brother Don, you there? He's frozen. See if he'll come. I see his face down here, but I don't see it up here. So we'll just wait and see. I see some of y'all trying to guess who that was. Brother Marcus, thank you so much for sharing the link on Facebook. If y'all on Facebook and y'all want to join in the conversation, tap on the link. Let's see here. Facts Not Feelings says Blacks hiring and taking care of other Blacks first is not reverse discrimination. No, it's totally not. Just like it's not reverse discrimination when they do it, right? It's called group economics. Indeed. I also said when you said that I was right in regards to citizen arrest. So thank you for that. You also say, remember, folks, for every complexion problem, there is an complex complexion. For every complex problem, there is an answer that is clear, simple, and wrong. Okay. And Frank, how are you doing? Super Patriot. I see you are kind of going off of what he said. Miss Moni, how you doing? You're saying hello to your brown sugar, Donovan. You also say this is beautiful. You get to have it a live conversation. I hope you enjoyed yourself, Donovan. I really miss you. Always have me. Love me some brown sugar. And Miss Quita, how you doing? Thank you so much for that compliment. Moni says, Demetra, make sure you do something with the lipstick while you're not wearing that. It's your beautiful signature, and it's pretty cool and fun. Right now, I'm not really wearing my lipstick because I got braces. So it's just better that I don't wear them. I wear the red lipstick right now. Don't really want them to be too obvious, but I don't know if y'all saw them or not. Let's see here. Super Pager says, Super Pager, he says, where'd it go? Ukraine got 100 billion. That's what they're saying. Although Joe Biden says $23 billion. Hey, don't ask me how.
Well, the thing is, it's not the fact that they got 100 billion. They have an open checkbook. So you add the 100 billion in cash, then you add the military hardware that we're giving them. It's an open checkbook.
Yes, indeed. So, Gerard, how are you? And Seth, what's going on? Rain, how are you? You say Ahmaud Arbery law repeals citizen arrest in Georgia. Yeah, they were more like being vigilantes, if you ask me, right? They're like lynch mob, for lack of better words, is what they were. So they weren't even trying to really protect the neighborhood. They were just white. They knew they could get away with killing somebody black, and they did. So I kind of understand why that law was repealed in Georgia, because, you know, and thank you, Beverly, for the reminder. If y'all could hit the like button, I love it. Appreciate y'all. And don't ask me, how are you doing this fine evening? And Wilbur, what's going on? I'm going to post the link in the comment section again if y'all want to come on and speak your mind. We could talk about whatever you want. We're just trying to open up the, it's not a phone line, but the live line, I guess, if you will, to give people a chance to speak in real time. Just trying to do something different. Opposed to you all having to do all that typing. You can come on here and say, hey, this is what's going on, right? I know, Donovan, you brought up earlier about BBLs. There was a situation. I'm not sure if both of the ladies were from Houston, but I did see it on Isaiah Carey. The Isaiah Carey, he's a news anchor or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly where I saw it from. He's a Houston news anchor down there.
Y'all remember Isaiah Carey from back in the day? Y'all remember him infamously? He was doing a live reporting somewhere years ago, and he was talking all proper. You know, the cows are this, that, and the other, and a bug flew in his mouth. Y'all remember that? And he's like, I'm dying in this country ass town. Bug flying all in my mouth. So anyway, I saw that on there about the BBLs. BBLs, Brazilian butt lift. It's a procedure that a lot of women, not just black women, but it's a lot of women. I mean, I go to the gym all the time and I see women in there with the most ridiculous BBLs. I saw a lady in cycling class yesterday. I think she got the torpedo booty or something because her butt was pointy, right? She was a Hispanic lady. Her booty was pointy. Obviously, she had a BBL, but a lot of women are starting to die from these BBLs because the expert that was on the show, and I'm going to get to the rest of your comments, the expert on the show says a lot of these women are getting referrals from TikTok and Instagram. Somebody saying, oh, my doctor did this, and if you want to know the doctor's name, I'm going to give you, the number or whatever, the information to call them. And the expert was saying a lot of times these people ain't even qualified. They just doing something. He says a lot of times they taking like a weekend class somewhere, and all of a sudden they're now certified to do these BBLs. And of course, we've heard countless stories of women dying on the table or afterwards. I will say that the one and last time that I did go to the DR, as I was waiting to come back to America, I guess, I saw a line full of women sitting on chairs, and I guess they call them the donuts after they've gotten these BBL procedures. They're sitting on these donuts and they're obviously in pain, right? So they're going back to America after getting these procedures, and it looked quite painful. But a lot of times we hear of a lot the women going to the DR and other places and getting these procedures and not making it back, right? So it's kind of crazy.
But let me ask you this. I mean, is that something that's really popular? Is it really popular?
Don, can you hear us? Still having some. Can you hear us? We can't hear you. We'll keep trying. Oh, there you go.
You hear me now?
Yes, we hear you. So
no, you're frozen, and I am too.
I think it's probably you, but I can hear you. But hold on a second.
Okay, maybe I'm just not supposed to speak today.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I like it. We can see you. You're frozen. I like your shirt. What's going on with you, brother? Brother Don?
We lost him.
Yeah, and unfortunately with this thing, you have to have a good internet connection, or a decent one. For whatever reason, it doesn't hold up as well. You there?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. What's on your mind, brother?
I have no idea what's going on with my internet.
We can hear you.
Hang on a second here. I've lost you guys.
Yes,
there we go.
Ray.
Okay. No, I had to change. I had changed devices.
Better. What's on your mind?
It keeps going in and out. Okay. So, wow. So you had a broad topic. It was pretty different. It was what I was kind of paying attention to is like, how we got here, as a people, as, men and women and the family, how we got to where we are. And the thing about it is everyone has been, folks have been on our necks from the beginning, and they had the chains on our necks. And after the physical chains were taken off, they put their foot on our neck, meaning everything that we built was destroyed so that we would never rise as a people, because they knew if we rose as a people, we would outpace them. If we were left alone, we would outpace them. And that was the example that they were seeing. And so I want to be clear about this. In terms of reparations, they owe reparations. They need to repair what they destroyed. They destroyed our life and our culture and so forth when they brought us here and enslaved us. They need to repair that. Then they also need to repair us for the destruction of property and life, fortunes, all of the structural anti-Black racism that we've experienced in this country. And we all know what it is. It crosses every sector of our lives. We need to be repaired for what was done to us intentionally by the federal governments, by the state governments, by the municipalities. We also need to be restored by those whose hands were directly in it. Just like I saw a story the other day, they're going after this actor. They're going after this actor's family because they had plantations in the Caribbean,
like
and they
Barbados?
was making their money. Yeah, yeah. And so there's a lot of people that made a lot of money. I'm talking about financial institutions that still exist today. Institutions of higher learning. It goes across the board. But the thing about it was this. This is all done intentional, and the heat got turned up in the 50s when we got to a point where we said we're not doing this anymore. And we started letting the country know by lighting it up. That's when they got the boule in to come and calm them Negroes down before they tear this place down. And then we all of a sudden start talking about being nonviolent and all that other stuff, only for the plan to flip upside down on their head. And somebody said, now, boss, when I come to see you this time, I'm coming to get a check. They said, oh, no, let's go ahead and start this purging and cleansing. And then after that was done, our women were looking around going, hey, we got no leaders. And at the same time, they revved up their women to talk about equality. They don't even understand the play on that one. And they solicited our women to join. Hey, sisters, join in the sisterhood and fight for us for equal rights with men. Once they got what they wanted, they did just like the academy to us. Once they got what they wanted, they abandoned the Black people. See, we don't need no allies. These are people that are just coming alongside to get what they can get for themselves. And then we get left with the bag. We've got to look out for ourselves. But the destruction of the Black family, I started with WOW, but then the government stepped in with the whole thing about your men. And also they start snatching back the money that was given back, to appease us during the civil rights. They start snatching back the money and the opportunities. If you guys know about the Small Business Administration and all that stuff. And then they set it up for failure for the Black man to fail, okay, through discrimination and so forth. And so now the Black man who's supposed to be able to take care of his family can't take care of his family. Now we're looking at government assistance, and now you can't have he can't be in the house if we're gonna help you. This is all set up to failure. And then we can talk about crack and all that other stuff that they dropped in the neighborhood. An intentional attempt to destroy Black people off the face of this country. And they got the other folks trying to destroy them off the face of the earth. So that's what's going on. Know the battle that we got to fight. I don't trust none of these people. I don't trust none of them. They've proven themselves time and time again. And by the way, it's the same people, and they're always crying foul. I land my plane there because I can't hear anyway.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to hear your knowledge and your wisdom and everything. We love and appreciate you for moderating the comment section as well. And I still have not made it to the P.O. box, but I plan to go tomorrow.
Oh, you'll be pleasantly surprised.
I'm gonna go tomorrow.
As I'm gonna end my shows.
All righty. Bye-bye. Yes, indeed. Hello, Brother Samuel, Sun Kisser. How you doing? I have put a link here in the comment section on, I guess it's going to be on YouTube. I don't know if it'll be on Facebook. If y'all want to come on and speak your mind live and in living color, we would love to hear your voice. So let me go back to, we were talking about the BBLs, and I saw y'all comments, so I want to go back to that. Complex blackness, you say. The BBLs are ridiculous. I see them all the time. Yeah, they're very, very, very common now. And Queenie says, my booty worked just fine. It does what it's supposed to do. Ask my toilet. Super Patriot says, the thing is, everyone can tell. You can't hide it. Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, did y'all want it to be obvious, or like, is it supposed to be subtle? I don't know, you know. Rainy says, I was born with my BBL and breasts and lips. Lucky you. Complex Blackness says, based on what I see, BBLs are popular. Very popular. Very, because it's like there's this pursuit of perfection, right? It's like, what is that though? You know, we've been heard the Coke bottle shape is the ideal shape. And then depending on who you ask, as a white man, he might think a woman, I don't know, straight up and down. So I don't know, somehow these BBLs have become the thing in the last, 10 years or so, maybe. I mean, they've always been around, but I'm talking about this explosion of these BBLs where they're everywhere. Back in the day, a surgery like that would be considered expensive, right? Everyone was not privy or privileged enough financially to have a BBL. Of course, you heard a lot about people going to these back alley BBLologists, I don't know what you call them, that would, shoot, fix a flat, and cement and a whole bunch of other stuff into the buttocks of people. And I don't say people because men be getting them too, okay? Men be having BBLs too. They would do it, and a lot of people end up dying and their butts falling off and kind of stuff like that. So now it's just kind of run of the mill. You can finance these things and they're very cheap. And like the expert said, well, if it's cheap, it don't cost that much. Because he says, I do BBLs, and he says most people can't afford me. So if you're going to these people who are doing BBLs and they talking about $3,500, it's like and it's like a major surgery if you really think about it, because a lot of times it's called a fat transfer, where they suck the fat out of different places in your body and then they stick it in your butt. I mean, in your butt, in your booty cheeks. They stick it in your booty cheeks. I had a dirty vision, but anyway. So anyway, let me get back to these comments before I say too much. Jan Michael says, okay, I'm back. Had to get something to wash down those Cowboys. Wink, wink. Also, the Cowboys lost. Yikes.
Yeah, they're getting beat pretty bad.
It happens a lot. And Money, I'm going to say that. How you doing? It says, I remember that video when the bug flew in his mouth. He said, what the F was that? Bugs flying in my mouth.
Oh, man. He's in the South. There's bugs everywhere down there.
Yeah, you're going to have a bug fly somewhere, okay? It's crazy. Yes, Rain, Don's voice was very soothing, wasn't it? And DDD says, I'm sure it has to do with global warming. And Jan Michael said Donovan was on point. Alessia says that family should have sold. You said they should have sold the beach house. The beach, Manhattan Beach, Bruce Beach, for $20 million. Yeah, there's a lot of people on the fence with that. The family got the land back from Los Angeles County. It was eminent domain in the 1900s from that of Willa and Charles Bruce. And a lot of it was done out of discrimination, racism. They took the land from the family because they wanted it. So it was eminent domain by the city, sold to the state of California. State of California sold it back to Los Angeles, where it had been up until recently, where Governor Gavin Newsom and Super Board of Councilwoman Janice Hahn decided that it needed to be given back to them because it was taken from them out of racism. And so they did have like a clause or whatever that they could sell it back. So they already knew even before recently that they could sell it for $20 million. But at the time they decided not to do that. Were actually leasing it to the city of Los Angeles for $450,000 a year, which is relatively nothing. But the opportunity came up to get $20 million. And so I'm one of those people. It's always easier from the sideline to say, oh, I wouldn't have did it, and we need to listen. Ain't nobody dangling $20 million in front of you, first of all. Second of all, if it was me, I would have taken the money and I would have taken part ownership as well. So I wouldn't have sold it all back to him. I would have had some percentage stake in the beach. So I want the money and I want some say-so to some degree to the beach so that we can still say that it belongs to my family. But it's always easier to say what we wouldn't do when we're not getting $20 million dangled. Also, some people would argue that, oh, well, the legacy is gone. Black people don't own nothing. There's generational wealth. But they might say, well, this is generational wealth. Now, obviously, they're owed a lot more than $20 million. But you don't know what that family situation is. So to them, it may be generational wealth. It's going to change the game for their family. So,
Well, like I said, like you said, armchair quarterbacking, and we could do all that. And I agree with everything you said, except that when I saw that his wife was white, that threw alarm. But here's the thing: $20 million. Yeah, one of his wife was white. Yeah, $20 million in the state of California. How long is that going to go, and what can you do with that? What should have been done, in my opinion, like I said, they can do what they got to do. Remember, even if we get our reparations, there's going to be those Negroes they're going to just take their money and just waste it. They're just going to waste it, and that's their right to do it. I mean, I'm not pocket watching what they want to do with the money. The fact that those of us that are smarter than that, because this is what I would have done, $450,000 a year. That's a legacy right there. If that's all you're going to take, even though the beach is worth way more than that, they could have gotten exempted for development fees. They could have got an exemption for that, because when you get reparations, it's to put you back in the status and correct a wrong, right? So they should have asked for a development fee exemption, become landlords, develop the land, because they would, since it's a privately owned thing, they could have developed right there on the beach. Other hotels and stuff can't do that. That would have been prime land. And they said, even as a landlord in rent, they could have brought home at least $25 million annually once the land was developed, $25 million annually. But in our group, there's always going to be those that are going to take the low money. And I'll give you a good example. I live in the city of Moreno Valley. You had Negroes when they built SoFi Stadium right there in the heart of blackness in LA, Inglewood, Watts, Compton, Carson, and all that area where they built that $6 billion stadium. They started the gentrification. Negroes were taking $230,000 on Big Mama's house that had been there for 4 decades. Big Mama saved up and they got that little matchbox house you see in the movie Menace to Society and Friday, right? Those homes that are still there in that area, matchbox house, 700 square foot at the most of those houses, 700 square foot house. $1 million. It's worth $1 million. But those folks took that money and moved out into my neighborhood. And a lot of them, $230,000, $300,000. That is not even enough to buy you a house out here. But we're quick to sell while you're sitting on that property. So if it was me looking at that, I would have become a landlord and I would have gotten a legacy of $25 million as a landlord developing that property.
Let me, and Joanne, I'm gonna read your comment. It says, this is what I don't understand about our people. Why would you sell it right back? And $20 million is nothing in Cali. Wow, sad. Can money heal your soul, or the wrongs committed by these people just wow? So the answer is no, that it cannot heal your soul or wrongs committed by these people. However, I'm going to say this, and then y'all can be mad at me if y'all want to. I'm going to actually ask this question. Why are we hanging our hopes and what those people should do with their family's legacy instead of going to build our own? Because, see, I'm not going to get mad about their money. Would it be nice for black people to own that beach? Hell to the mother, yeah. It would be nice if they kept that land, but we are all talking out the sides of our necks, talking about, well, I would have kept the land. Quit lying to kick it. If they would have gave you $20 million right now, listen, I can't, you may would not have. I know it sounds good to be representing the culture. I'm holding out. That's some bullshiggity. Most people ain't gonna, listen, I always tell y'all, for the most part, the internet ain't real because people be on the internet lying, talking about, what they should have did. Most of these people talking about they wouldn't have sold that land back. Shit. If the government or whoever would have said, I got $20 million from you, you wouldn't see their ass on YouTube no more. Let's just keep it real. So the point that I'm making is we should not be upset about what that family did for their family. Would have been nice, yes, but why don't we go about building our own legacies and stop giving away $1. See, we're more mad about them taking $20 million than we are mad about us giving away 97% of $1.3 trillion every year in the Black community. That don't make any sense to me. Our focus is backwards. That is their money. We can't tell them what to do with their money. They want to sell the beach back. Then that's on them. And somebody asked how big is the beach? How many acres? It's big. Manhattan Beach is it's prime real estate. It is, right? Which is probably why they racially, horribly, demonically took it from them in the first place. But please, let's be logical. It all sounds good. Like, I'm not mad at the Bruce family. And if one of them is married to a white woman, yeah, that sucks that if he is married to a white woman, she gonna get that money. But guess what? If he was married to Miss Piggy, you ain't getting that money. So what difference does it make? You like we're so concerned about what these people are married to, but you was never gonna get that money no way.
Well, here's what I think is actually going on. The powers that be see that reparations is not going away. The Democratic Party is seeing that reparations, it's tangibles or nothing else, right? So what they're doing is they're throwing this stuff out there because the lawyer that they got a lawyer pro bono, okay? A pro bono lawyer. Now, I'm suspect by that, and I agree with you. Not everybody's free to do what you want with your money. Now, me, I would have been a lot smarter than that, but that's me. They got a pro bono lawyer. Now, the question is, who gave them this pro bono lawyer? Because what it is with reparations not going away, what they're doing, if you've been paying attention, and this is my opinion, is they know they're going to have to pay something. So instead of $17 trillion, if I can get you down to $17 billion, I'll pay that. And I'm thinking this is what they're doing with the lawyer. It's kind of like the lawyer. When I read the story, and I told Demetra about it last night, about the issue that they sold it back. It's almost like having a defense lawyer, a state defense lawyer, public defender. You better take the 20 million or, it might not be there next week. Well, damn, you didn't have it for so many generations already. What's a couple more years, to really fight and get more money for it, to leverage it. And that's what I think the powers that be are now doing. They're saying, you know what? This thing is not going away. So you know what we're going to do? Instead of giving these guys 17 trillion, let's get them down to 17 billion, because we know a lot of them are going to take the money. And that's fine if you want to take the money. But that's what I think is going on, because they know they can't go away from it, period.
I actually covered the story. It's out on African Diaspora News Channel today about the beach situation. I actually covered it about a year ago when it first was discovered about the Bruces and what happened to them. So yeah, it's on the African Diaspora News Channel if y'all check it out. But Quita raises a very excellent question. Why didn't another Black person buy the beach? There's plenty of billionaires out there that could have at least $20 million. They could have bought it and kept it Black. But see, we're more enraged with those. We don't know what the Bruce's financial situation is. Maybe they're broke. Maybe they need the money. But if we're so concerned with keeping it Black, why didn't somebody who had the money buy it? You know what I mean? So I think that,
Oprah wasn't going to buy no damn beach it's Black people. Now, go ahead.
Well, I mean, Oprah ain't the only one that got the money to write a check for that. P. Diddy, the Carter Knowles, Beyonce, and there's a lot of people with the money. If they really want to keep, like, if I had the money, I would have bought it. I would have offered them, a little bit more or whatever. And then I would also let them have some ownership in the beach. That would, for me, I would have sold it with those stipulations that I have some sort of stake in the beach as well. So that's just would have been me.
And Notorious Hebrew, real quick. No, they didn't list it. It was agreed. It was a ongoing contract between them and the county. So it wasn't up for listing. The county was already in the negotiation. No bid contract, basically.
And Frank, he says, why sell it back to the racist city? Well, money does a whole lot of talking, unfortunately. You know what I mean? So their reasons are their own. I'm sure that maybe one day they'll say, but they did nevertheless, right?
Well, another good example would be like, California's talked about $238,000 for those descendants of slaves, right? Now, I would be remiss if anybody says, well, I'm not going to take that money, because most of us don't even have $238,000 in the bank account. Now, what we should be saying, instead of just saying like final, no, 238,000 is a good start. That's good for the first year. That's the kind of stuff we should be saying. We shouldn't be saying $238,000 and that's it. But this is what the powers that be are trying to do. They're trying to lowball us as much as we can so they don't have to pay as much. What we should be talking about is this: $230,000. That's a good start. We'll start with that right now. But anybody that takes that money, I'm not going to be mad at them. But it shouldn't be a final payment. That's where I'm at.
Right. And so Facts and Feelings, you say, here's the problem. They use the Black culture and Black people to rally behind them, to help build support, to get property. They just sold it back. It was only for personal gain. I mean, but, shouldn't we do stuff for personal gain? You do stuff for personal gain so you can help other people. But the other issue is, I mean, why didn't we? I mean, I guess we didn't probably know about it like that. But I mean, we could have been, and maybe even still, I don't know if the ink is dry on the contract, but maybe somebody else could say it's Black. You know what? Let me take that off your hands. We at least keep it Black, but you get the money. So, I get it, the personal gain, but I'm not one of those people that say that you should sacrifice yourself. Sacrifice yourself for people who may not do that for yourselves, because we still have not answered the question of why we give 97% of our money away every year. We need to answer that question before we're mad at them for taking the $20 million. Listen, I get it. I would have loved to say I'm going to Manhattan Beach, the Black Beach, Bruce's Beach. I would have loved to be able to say that, but that wasn't my choice. You know what I mean? And DDD says pro bono attorneys are broke down into several categories. And LS says, what are you saying? What you're saying is true, Demetra. The problem is other people in our community see how this is handled and follow suit. I mean, I totally agree. But we need to get in a position to where we can say, don't sell that back to the oppressor. We can buy it. Because I tell you right now, the Asians would have been in a position to say, oh, no, you ain't. In fact, if an Asian was in that situation and on that beach, they would have never thought twice about selling it back. They'd have like, shit, I know my people got money. My people in the position to buy this beach off of me, or take some ownership in it to build it up, and it would have been a beach utopia for the Asian community. So we need to. I know there's systemic institutional racism. I'm not negating that, but we need to ask, as Brother Samuel said, to do for ourselves. Why are we not in a position like the Asian community? Because we do not, as a majority, do for self, so we can get in those positions, right? Let's see here. Joanne says, I agree. Donovan, Notorious Hebrew says, lowballed them because they knew they'd bite. They made that made no damn sense. Yeah, of course they did, right? Facts Not Feeling says, this is what I don't like about our people. We keep using Black struggle and culture for personal gain as opposed to collective gain. But you know what? It'd be a lot easier to do if more of us would do it. But we're asking those people who got dangled $20 million in their face to say, no, I'm doing it for my people. But let's keep it 100. Our people don't necessarily do it for each other. So, you got to we got to use common sense here. Y'all expecting those people to say no to $20 million when where's the line of people say, we got you, we support you, let's build this beach up. You know what I mean? So it's like, it sounds, in theory, as my daughter always says, in theory, it's cute. But realistically speaking, who's really going to say, I'm good on the $20 million? I'm going to go back to Amazon and pushing this cart. Well, Donovan, you probably would. I'm skeptical, but I'll just take you at your word. Let's see. Tawana says control.
You know me. I mean, come on. With 12 degrees, you know me. I would do something like that because I know, like I said, there's a lot of ignorant people in the world. There just is. I know the value of what a beachfront property in California is. No, I'm saying me. I'm saying me.
But I'm saying you said the ignorance. I said that don't make them ignorant because they sold the land.
No, I didn't say that. I said there's a lot of ignorant people out there. I didn't say them specifically. There's a lot of ignorant people out there that they just take the money. I'm not mad at them, but I know me. I know the value of what beachfront property is worth. Anybody that's traveled knows the value of beachfront property. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, I would kick the deal because I know they want that land back so bad. I could have gotten way more than $20 million. Kept myself on the property. Somebody said they're about the taxes, and I hate when people bring that up. Well, they got to bring the taxes. They probably couldn't afford the taxes. That's probably true. But you can stipulate in the contract that since it was taken in 1898, the taxes should be based on when it was taken, period, or no taxes at all. You can't just give me this and say, okay, this is $1 billion property. Do you got the money to pay the taxes on it? No, I don't. But it was initially taken in 1898, so I should be taxed based on the year it was taken. Period. And you can stipulate that in the contract. That's what I'm saying. People that don't know don't know. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, but again, nobody was in those rooms but them. We don't know what their discussion was or anything. Really,
no, you asked me if I would do it or not. This is about me. I'm telling you what I would do.
I ain't talking about you no more. I'm saying we were not in those rooms, so we don't know what actually went on. We just kind of heard the aftermath of, oh yeah, they're selling the land for $20 million. But as far as the negotiations and all that, we have no idea, what is going on. And so again, I wish that they would have kept it, but they didn't. And I guess I kind of have to understand that $20 million is not what the beach is actually worth. I think we all can agree with that. Those of us who've been to Manhattan Beach would say, yeah, it's probably worth more than $20 million, but that's what they were offered, right? Let's see here. Lesson says there's not enough basketball and football players who could have bought it. Unity is a constant issue. Yeah, I mean, they could have pulled their money together. So, you know what I mean? There's plenty of people who have the money. I mean, hell, we can even all chip in $5 a piece, and put some money toward them keeping it. But, media is evil. How you doing? Long time no see. It says Asian work ethic is second to none. They deserve their success. I totally agree with you. That's why I said I'm never mad at the Asian community for building and keeping wealth. But we know had that been the Asian community, that was shit. They were like, we're not selling this back to them. We keeping it. Everything on Manhattan Beach would have been written in whatever Mandarin or whatever, the Asian community, wherever they're from, they speak. So it would have been. Facts Not Feelings said they did not even have the foresight to reach out to a collective for 5 rich blacks to purchase it. They were just about personal gain at the expense of others. Well, how's that at the expense of others when the beach hadn't been owned by black people since 1918? How's that really at the expense of others? And that money, even if they own that beach, who's to say they was going to give the money to black people? It would have just been black in name, right? So we're doing a lot of speculation here, but how is it really at the expense of others when others never benefited from it in the first place? I'm just asking, because there's a lot of land. What the Asians do. I tell y'all about the book Hidden Secrets of Oriental Wealth all the time. It's on YouTube. It's an audio book. They pull their resources together and they buy stuff. They don't sit up and say, well, you sold your house. I'm not saying this by you, Facts Not Feelings, but you sold your house at the expense of our people. They're like, nah, there's a couple of houses for sale around the corner. Let's pull our money together, go buy them, and then we own the neighborhood, the block, and all of that. So there's levels to it. Notorious Hebrew says they didn't say anything. How are we to know? Yeah, maybe they never thought about pooling resources. Maybe they're just like, yeah, we're just going to sell it. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of speculation. We just don't know all that happened.
Right. Well, it's the same thing as my analogy of what's happened in South Central. It ain't like they told them a major stadium was going to be built when the gentrification started. Gentrification starts 30 years prior, if not even longer than that. The thing is in the program. If you don't go to these city council meetings and understand what is being built in the city, you have no idea. So when the public domain came in, which they had the public domain and stuff, even though the people tried to fight, they wanted a fair deal. You're only going to get $300,000, $400,000 for it. You know what I mean? So it ain't like the realtor's gonna go out there and tell you, oh yeah, well, your property is only worth $1 million, but we're gonna give you, no, they're gonna tell you, oh, it's only worth $230,000. Either take it or we're gonna public domain it from you. So
right. I'm just going through these comments here. Don, he says 20-year lease, $1 million per year, no property tax. For as long as the property was unlawfully detained, and Proposition 13 property tax.
That's it. Right
thereafter, someone cut a check, a backroom deal. Obviously, we know. Well, we don't know, but it seems like that was the case. But I'm not going to hinge my hopes on the Black community on one family. I'm sorry. I just don't think that's how that works. You know what I mean?
That was a lot of beach for $20 million. In the Dominican Republic, in the Punta Cana area. That's not a big beach compared to what Manhattan Beach is. Oh my gosh, come on. They're making a killing down in Dominican Republic.
Absolutely. Rain says, we're not talking about the Asians, just saying we need to be talking about the Asians. You know why we need to be talking about the Asians? Because the Asians got the blueprint. They got it on lock. And so we like to hate on the Asians a lot. And for some reason, yeah, it's valid. But for a lot of reasons, as it says in The Hidden Secret of Oriental Wealth, which makes a lot of sense. I've read the book and I've listened to it a couple of times. It's simple. We just don't have the discipline. So that's why we should be talking about the Asians, because the Asians have the discipline. What the Black people, like I said, when we got to go to the store or go buy something, we got to shop Black. Make sure you shop Black today. Asians don't have to tell themselves, you're going to shop Asian today. Make sure you shop Asian. They just do it. So we should be talking about the Asians because they got the blueprint. You don't hear them hooping and hollering as much as Black people do about politicians. Giving them, I was going to say a bad word, you ain't going to say it, but giving them, the cold shoulder. You don't hear the Asians doing that as much. They do, but not like we do. You don't hear them talking about they broke. They ain't got money. Oh, please, massa, Democrats, give me money or give us some. They just do the stuff. In fact, they said we got banks. We got our own banks. But if we need money, we go to the wall. We go to the wall where the money is built in and somebody needs $10,000 or whatever. Here you go. We got it. You don't need to go take out a loan and get a high interest rates and stuff like that. We got it because we pool our resources together. They also said we don't mind living 15 in a house because we know we're working toward the goal of buying another house and another house and another house. So as far as us not talking about the Asians, we need to be talking about the Asians. We need to be duplicating what the hell they doing so we can do for self, as our ancestors told us so many years ago. Do for self. Up, you mighty nation. Accomplish what you will. So I'm one of those people. I'm gonna talk about what successful people are doing. I ain't gonna sit up and talk about what broke people doing, what people who are not successful. I'm not talking about what they doing. I want to know what you doing. Oftentimes you hear a lot of wealthy people say, I became wealthy because I saw somebody else who was wealthy was driving a car I said, and they said, what are you doing? What are you doing to drive that type of car? So we want to follow what successful people are doing.
Right, but let me ask you the question: if everybody's is lowballing themselves in prices, when do we set the example to where how you should negotiate that offer?
The example is easier to set when you know you got a community behind you, but it's a lot of us sitting up there saying what they should have done, but there's other things that we can be doing as a community. So it's easier to negotiate when you know that you got other options. Maybe that family felt like selling this back for $20 million is our only option. You know what I mean? And let's keep it real. We don't pull together a whole lot of stuff. I know Dr. Umar is controversial for whatever reason, but this man been trying to raise money for the school forever. You know what I mean? Had that been some Asians, listen, I know Dr. Umar is problematic, so I'm just using him as an example. But had that been some Asians trying to build a school, they'd have built that school 15,000 years ago. And they'd have 15 more schools behind it. So I don't think I need to belabor the point. I think I get where I'm going. Let's see who else came on here. Turner Ira, how you doing? Says, as long as our community continues to operate with the slave mindset integrated within us during slavery, Jim Crow, and currently we will continue not to be in Allah's favor. I totally agree with you. And RBG, how you doing? Red, black and green. LS says, Demetra and Donovan, if their income doesn't support paying taxes on $20 million, they will lose it. As lotto winners, they go broke all the time because they don't generate the kind of money they win. The other problem with the lotto winners is because they are irresponsible and they spend thinking I got all this money, and they don't take into account.
And another thing is that you got to remember there is no taxing on reparations payments. There is no tax. That's a fact. But they could have renegotiated the development fees if they kept the land and wanted to develop. Like I said, they could have done all kinds of things if they would have had a better lawyer or whatever. If they were thinking about keeping the land, let me say that. If they wanted to keep the land, they would have had to get a better negotiating lawyer to make sure things were in place. You do not tax reparations money. When the Asians were given money in 1946 or whatever for being interned, they didn't say, okay, here's $60,000. We're going to tax, 40% of that, and now you don't get anything. They do not tax reparations money.
Hello, Reparations. I see you on here. I'm gonna bring you up in just a minute. All right, so let me see. Rain says Asians do not get their thriving communities burnt to the ground or terrorized off their land. Why? I'm gonna let y'all answer that. Why don't that happen to them?
Because Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee is currently in a silo in Wyoming, the state of Wyoming, and they're going to thaw him out when the economy gets better.
And somebody answer that. Why don't the Asian communities that get their communities burnt down? And somebody could please answer that question. I would love to see what you say. All right. So, and reparations, just hold on 1 second. And Kiki, how you doing? Says, hey y'all, do y'all think they had something? Do you all think they had someone to survey the land for them to determine that amount, $20 million, or they just took what they're offering? Because I would think if they had someone survey it, they had realized it was worth more than 20. But yeah, absolutely.
Well, and you also got to remember, who are they going to get to survey the land in most cases? It ain't like it's going to be a black guy. You got a lot of white people out here that don't want black people to have reparations, and Hispanics and so on and so forth. So if let's say you hired me to do, and I'm a white guy, let's say you hired me to do the survey, and I'm deep down inside, I really don't want you to have this money. I'm going to make you lowball, and this is what's going to happen in the reparations talk. They're going to see how low they can go and pay it. And then once it's paid, we have nothing to stand on from that point on. Nobody has any excuses of why they can't make it. So if you take the $238,000 one-time payment, that's all you're going to get. That's it. Make it on your own.
But let's keep it real. People going to take that money. Okay. They're not going to be like,
no, exactly. Like I said, they're going to take it. But the point is, once you take it, that's it. Like I said, we should be saying $238,000 for California. That's a good start. That's a good year. Now next year, let's make it $338,000. The year after that, $430,000. That's what we should be talking about. But there's always going to be somebody that's going to take the lower fruit. That's just human nature.
Yeah, and Jalen, how you doing? It says if we move to China as a race for a better life, we shop black almost exclusively because it's what we know. A good real estate lawyer would be needed to help with the beach deal. I totally agree with you. All right, so I'm waiting for somebody to answer the question. Why don't the Asian community get their stuff burnt down to the ground like we do? Let's see. Reparations. I'm going to bring you on. How you doing?
I'm okay.
What's on your mind?
Yes, to answer your question, why Asian communities don't let me, if I remember the question correctly, if you can repeat the question again.
Why don't Asians get their communities burnt down like that of Black Wall Street?
And that's a great question you asked that. And I think I know the answer to that question, because if you look at a lot of Asian businesses, because I live in an area, well, I must say I live near an area where it's owned by Asian business. For example, Eden Shopping Center is Vietnamese owned. It never gets burnt down. I mean, sir, there's times they struggle financially because the Vietnamese, I'm saying Asians collective, and I'm sure that your right hand man is aware that in California the Asians, they're very united. They arm themselves to protect their businesses. They have meetings every day, whether it's in Hindu, Vietnamese, Chinese, Korean, Japanese. They meet with their local representatives. They write letters. They do press release, especially the young Asian millennials. They do a lot of social media every day to protect the Asian communities, and also the Asians when they open businesses. And I hate to say this, but although, and I understand why Black people need to arm themselves, especially for Black businesses. Although I'm not a proponent of guns, but I understand the importance in this age we're living in. because Asians realize that if they don't protect the community, if the Asians don't protect their businesses, how are they going to recover financially? Given the fact that the police, don't respond timely and efficiently, and the Mzungu police say, "Oh, that's not a problem. Oh, because the Asians, they don't speak English, so we can't do anything about it to repair the damage. So we're going to let the Asian businesses survive on their own." And I think that's why a lot of Asian why you don't hear a lot of Asian businesses burning down. And to address what your guest, your right hand man, said about the Black Wall Street, and that's a history lesson that once Black people receive reparations, which are needed, but then once to circulate the money in the Black communities, they need is prevention equals ounce of cure. And what Philip Scott said, once we receive, I'm just quoting, so don't think that I'm just quoting. So Philip Scott said, once we receive reparations, we have to make sure it's tax exempt. And I totally understand, because history showed that with the Black Wall Street and Black communities thrive economically in the 1900s. It got burned down very quickly, and I think it's because and what I'm going to say is, it might sound a little harsh, but it's a reality, because, and this is just from my observation. You probably can agree or disagree. So I understand that once certain Black people reach success or economic ladder at the top, I understand that they had to wear something expensive, make their business very flashy to show that they were more successful, and that could lead to envy, burning down. Whereas in Asian communities, when they have their business thriving for generations, they tend to be more humble, right? Yeah, you could be proud. Don't get me wrong; it's okay to be proud, but I think there's a way to there's a certain level to be proud that you open a business without it excuse me, without it burning down. And to write him in, Donovan, I have a quick question to ask you, and you Demetra, can answer. So so you mentioned about Latisa Harlins in 1991, how she
Mhm.
went to an Asian liquor store, and she was getting ready to pay the juice, which was, I think, what, $2 5 cents.
It was like $1.79 or something like
Right.
that.
Something like that, right? And I'm just going back and forth, and and I'm a very historical person, so I try to understand the Asian and Black relations for so long. I understand the racial relations between Asians Blacks. It has not really I would say how do I say this? Like, I understand there are tensions between the two communities. I totally understand. And right. And I understand because the Asians, when they came to California, especially the Koreans, came to Beverly Hills, California, in the I don't remember, 1980s, if I remember exactly. They thought they could open business in Beverly Hills to attract white customers, because they understand white customers have a lot of wealth, money connections, and the Asians were wrong to actually believe that. And so the white people in Beverly Hills did not want Asian businesses, because they're concerned that the property value in Beverly Hills, California, would depreciate further. And so that really forced Asians to move into areas that they didn't feel, I guess, comfortable. And I think there's tension. And I understand why the blacks told Koreans, "Why are you in our communities? You don't know our people very well. You don't speak the same language. Why do you want to open a business in Los Angeles when you and I have different skin colors? We don't speak the same language. Our cultures are very different." And so I can understand why the tensions are still there, and why it's very, I think, why it's very difficult for majority Black people to recover the trauma they experienced from Asians. And I totally understand. I also understand why Philip Scott said, and I'm just quoting what John Henry Clark said: "We have no friends
Mhm.
outside the Black community. We only have us to focus on." Are there Asian individuals who care about Black people? Yes, but the majority of Asians are racist. Excuse me. They're racist. They show white supremacy. They have white supremacist views towards Black people. So I understand that Asians are not going to change collectively, but maybe. And Donovan, to ask you, and I understand, Donovan, in your comments a couple weeks past, you mentioned that As a kid, when you're stationed in Japan, you experience racism from Japanese locals, even though you're considered American because of skin color. I was very elaborate that on more.
Well, okay, up until World War II, um, there wasn't really a lot of interaction with Black people in Japan. Okay, so after we won World War II and Japan got occupied, and a lot of the countries in Asia that got occupied by the American forces, you got to think about it, and it makes sense. Just like they did in World War One with the Blacks in World War One in Europe, white Americans came over there with their white supremacist, racist views, and they told the local people, "Oh, don't mess with the Blacks. They've got tails. They do this. They do that. They do this." So that's when the racism really took off in the Asian market in Asia after World War II, because the white service members came there with their racist views of how to deal with Blacks. After World War One, again, how many Blacks came back here after serving and got lynched? There was a big mass of Black lynchings in 1918 to 1919. These guys were in uniforms getting lynched. But if you saw the movie A Soldier's Story, in the movie, Sergeant Waters tells the story of how the white soldiers would tell the European girls and stuff that the Black men had tails, because let's face it, a lot of Blacks did not live in Europe during that time. So that's where the racism actually came about. But there are a lot of, when I grew up, there was a lot of mixed children and stuff like that, especially in Vietnam. There's a lot of Black Eurasian children. But we know in the Asian culture, the darker your skin is, the less, especially when I went to Vietnam in 2019, the Black Eurasian kids were at the bottom of the feeding well. So there's a racism hierarchy that started in Asia well after World War II, because before that, there really wasn't a problem with different groups, because Asians were very welcoming to different cultures and understood different cultures. Because remember, China has been around for years. So they were not known not to know other cultures. But when the racism of the American came over after World War II during the occupations, that's when the pseudo, especially in Japan, I would say it's more prevalent in Japan than it is in the other groups. So that's where it kind of started.
Yeah, because right, and I mean I know what I'm asking. It might sound a little sensitive. I didn't mean to, but for me, because like I said, in the Asian communities, I was very naive. I didn't think that they were like this, but then over time, interacting with them, studying them, understanding how they think, how they move, it made me to believe that that maybe I shouldn't interact with a lot of Asians, excuse me, for a certain period, because I educate a lot of Asians that if we weren't for Black people today, Asians will not exist in America. That's why I keep telling the Asians, especially like no matter if like the Vietnamese, Koreans, Japanese, a lot of them, I notice my interactions, they have this so-called adjacent white privilege, right? And I'm sure you interact with a lot of Asians who act white, right? Because you can't even tell, like on the phone, yeah, this person's white, right? But then when you meet the Asian person in California, oh, that's the same person I talk to who talks, talks white. And excuse me, I'm speech. How do I? And so I see why a lot of why majority of Black people resent Asians, because Asians have this adjacent white privilege, and a lot of Asians think that they're better, but they don't understand the real American history. It's whitewash. And I educate a lot of Asians that the schools they go to, Ivy Leagues, it was built by Black slaves. And if it weren't for Black people, Ivy Leagues will not exist. And then Asians will not have gone into Ivy Leagues. And then this argument that Asians are suing for affirmative action, I think is ridiculous. Because I'm like, and I say to Asians, do you know who actually benefits the most from affirmative action indirectly? It's actually white men, white women. They benefit indirectly more than Asians and Blacks combined. And a lot of Asians don't want to believe me. I always have like arguments. It's like I want to spit at them and get into like
Don't
fights.
do that.
Right. Yes, because it's I know, because we live in a time where Asians are being like I don't know, how do I say this? They're like, I guess you could say, being brainwashed. They don't want to hear, like, they don't want to study like critical race theory. I kind of know what critical race theory is. So a lot of Asians are standing like in tandem with Muzungu moms to defeat, critical race theories and like
Well,
public.
and the other thing too is, a lot of and we're gonna get out of here in a minute too. A lot of other races, they have been taught and believe that Black people are the most inferior, right? So,
Right.
of course, Asians also they believe that as well because they've learned from that of white supremacy and other, people around the world that Black people are nothing and we should not, respect them and things like that. So that ideology is learned. But just like a lot of other people, let's keep it real, the Asian community, they do not like us, but they like our money. So you touched upon something that was really profound when we said that the Asians tried to go into Beverly Hills and basically white folks ran them up out of there. Like, nah, we don't want to spend with you, right?
Right.
And they went where?
Los Angeles.
But they went to the Black community, right?
Yeah, South Central.
And what do we do?
You decide to spend your money at the Asian communities that don't respect you guys.
There you go. I don't even know what that is, but there you go. That's what I'm saying, right? Even though, and let's just keep it real, we know that the Asians don't always treat Black people right in those communities. But even with that being said, whether it's a nail shop or whatever it is, they can beat us up with broomsticks. We're going to be mad about it for a week or two, and then we're going to be right back in there. So that is part of the difference. The white people's like, no, we're not going to put up with it. And they went to our neighborhood and they make money hand over fist. And they don't give back to the Black community. They don't hire from the Black community. They take all that money and they go back to the gated communities to which they live. And so that was kind of on us. And so really kind of answered the question. Some of y'all kind of answered it. I'm not saying I'm right. But yeah, they don't do the Asian community that way because the Asian community have always been unified. Now, of course, we came over here under different circumstances as far as slavery. But when we were segregated, and I'm not talking about the Jim Crow stuff, that was horrible. But we fought for integration. Our people fought for that. We fought for integration because we thought being able to, and so we even still have those ideologies to this day. Oh, I want to see my kid to a white school. Oh, I want to live in a white neighborhood. We thought that was going to be better to leave our own people. One of my favorite movies is Lackawanna Blues. And they talked about that, the dilapidation of the Black community when segregation ended and we went and dispersed and moved with white people. And so one thing Asians would never do, I don't think they wouldn't fight to be away from their people and to be amongst the oppressor. They know that there's power in numbers and staying together. And so that is something that, in low key, we were tricked into doing, and a lot of it was through our leaders, Martin Luther King's and all that. He was complicit as well in, getting us to we shall overcome and all this other stuff until he woke up. Of course, you guys know the story. But our leaders were paid to do that to us, to tell us it was better to be away from each other. Who was it? J. Edgar Hoover. He said, one of the greatest threats to America is Black unity. And so
the rise of the Black Messiah, Black unity.
Yeah, they've been doing everything they can ever since. To this day, I mean, even with that of Grandmaster Jay, they've been doing everything they can ever since to keep us separate and fighting. Just look at the Black community. And you ask yourself, what other community, obviously we have issues, but does the things that we do? You know what's so funny? My daughter and I were talking about teeny bopper, tween music. Like she says, when I was growing up, you had your groups like your B5s, and even when we were growing up, your Candy Rains and your little cute little girl groups that were innocent. She says, where are those groups in our community? Where are those? I said, there are no groups like that in our community because they want our children to listen to your Nicki Minaj's, your Cardi B's, and your Megan Thee Stallions, and all those type of people. They want us listening to our children, listening to them. There he is, listening to them, opposed to being innocent, right? So there's the innocence is lost. They go from being a child to adult stuff, if you will. So that they escape all the growing up stuff. So the point that I'm making is the Asian community, they probably will never be burnt down because America also knows if you mess with the Asian community, then y'all probably gonna be burnt down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially with the anti-Asian hate crime legislation they received recently, which I think it's ridiculous. I'm like, Asians, you guys are not the majority of victims of white supremacy. It's actually Blacks. And it's like what Donovan said in 2021. I think last when he was talking about Leticia Harlins. The most anti-hate crime committed against black people is white people. I think the statistic was like what 75% of crimes committed by Muzungus, and very few Asians. And I know Asians how they think because they're like the white supremacists. They need the white mommy, white daddy. And I know this because I know a lot of Asians. They worship, value white people, and I know this. Oh, because I have to say, although I have not although I have not interacted with a lot of white people as a kid growing up, because I went to a very diverse school district. So at that time, I was very naive, didn't understand, people's, people's experience of racism, white supremacy. It's my fault. I blame myself because I was very, naive. I was, and I usually don't say this, but as a kid, I had a speech impediment and I had a disability, so I couldn't understand, and I just blame myself every day. Sometimes I cry. It's like if I were really that dumb or ignorant, I would have fully understand a long time ago. And so I really, I'm trying to get up to, I'm really trying to get up to speed quickly to implement the reparations. For you guys. And Donna, quick question. You mentioned that the black population is dropping very quickly, California, and I understand why you don't leave California. I get it, because if you leave California, who's going to watch out for the black people in California, statewide? And so my question to you, Donovan, Demetra, especially Donovan.
Mm-hmm.
So you said that you want to prevent the black population from dwindling quickly in California. How do you combat it? What solutions do you propose to develop black businesses in California, especially the fact that the black population is now less than double digit?
Well, yeah, the black population is now estimated to be 5.7% right now. In LA alone, at one time, the black population was about, I think they said it was 13% in the 1970s.
Mhm.
Now it's less than 6%. The only way that black people are going to come out of this and open up businesses is if Gavin Newsom and that Reparations Commission goes through and does initially give us the initial start of that $238,000 in reparations. That $238,000 in reparations, black people can open a business. They can pay off their debts and do those things, but that's going to be the only way we're going to get out of it. I'm an anomaly in the aspect that I don't really, I'm not into material things, which saves a lot of money. But the fact of the matter is they are pricing black people out of California. And that's just the bottom line. The only thing that's going to save us is the reparations to bring our numbers back up. But without that, California is a services state. What I mean by a services state is if you ain't got the money, you are a server. You're either working in a warehouse, you're working in a restaurant, you're working at a store as a customer service representative. Right. Other than that, our industries, major corporations and companies have left. McDonnell Douglas, the aerospace industry has left California because of the regulation and the taxing that goes on here. This is now going to be a rich person's state to where they get serviced and, and they live the good life, which is another reason why if I had been given Bruce Beach, I would have known, hey, I could make a lot of money on this beach because this is what's happening in the state of California. A $6 billion football stadium where most of the black people that live in that area can't even afford a ticket.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's crazy for a football ticket because even football is not considered, it's not considered like luxurious compared to golf, right? And it's just crazy. And I would say this to I didn't tell you. And by the way, Donovan, thank you for your military service because I used to work with veterans. So I haven't said this to you at the beginning, but whenever I had conversations about reparations with my black colleagues, they got very scared, right? Or they thinking, oh, it's a hand. I said, no, it's not. I'm just asking, do you support reparations? I said, a simple question. I was very surprised because my colleagues were thinking how does this person know about reparations, even though he's not, not black? And I was just asking a simple question. It's not even a handout. It's do you support it or not? And then they do that. Then ask for how should we support it? Should it be continuous? Should it be a one-time thing? And a majority response says it should be continuous because giving a one-time check is not going to cut it. And that's why I always say, and to speak to you and Donovan about how to get your people on board with reparations, no matter their religion, political views. I also feel like this. Okay, you're driving a car, right? And someone hits you by accident, right? And your car is totally damaged, right? So now you're thinking to yourself, okay, how am I going to afford to fix my car? I need the money. I need the cash. And I think that's the way you can adjust your people. Like the Manhattan Beach you said in California, right? Because it's being depleted, right? So because to maintain that house, like you say, it's like what, 20 million or more, right? It's very expensive. So if you want to keep the house, it's going to require a lot of repairs. And what Don said earlier, it's going to require like upfront cash. So you need that money to stabilize the house because the sewers needs to be fixed, plumbing, right? And I think that's the way you can get your people to understand how to relate. I guess I'm trying to say how to relate money to like your house needs, your cars. So that way I think it will stimulate your people to accept reparations like quickly because they know they can't turn that money. That money is like too good to be true. And what the COVID stimulus has demonstrated to us, majority of Americans said, yeah, we need the money because we're struggling in the COVID environment. No, of course we're not going to turn down that money. And yeah, so that's why I think why I can understand why you and Demetra, you guys are very like, I mean, not first, but I can tell why you guys are very tired trying to get your people to be on to be on code because you're doing a lot of education, a lot of research, right? And sometimes it doesn't register. So I get it because I had a disability. It didn't register to me quickly. And so the way to break it down is like you probably might use like, I don't know, like concrete terms or concrete solutions. Talk about how does like money impact you like personally, physically, psychologically, and how does it impact their relationships? Because I definitely know that a lot of the Black working class, they definitely can use reparations to start a business, right? They definitely can. But I understand why the Black upper class don't want it to happen because they're scared of competition that the poor Black person will compete with the rich Black person.
Yeah, there's, definitely that classism. But I thank you so much for coming on here and finally showing your face. It's nice to put a face to the comment section. So I appreciate you. We look forward to having more conversations with you, but we're going to start to get on out of here.
Okay. Nice to meet you, Demetra. Sorry to so much.
Don't be sorry. Thank you for the conversation. It was very enjoyable. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so now you know my real name is Michael Penn. I put the Black
agenda. I already knew. You weren't fooling me. Thank you.
You're welcome, Donovan. All right, thank you.
Bye-bye. Yes, indeed. So we are going to, I'm going to close this off. Get out of here. So we're going to do this every week. Give everybody a chance to come on here. A couple people came on here today, but maybe you guys need to get your courage up. Come on here. We're nice. We don't bite. We cool. We're not going to do nothing to you.
Yeah, Demetra only comes at me, for head hunting. She only does that to me.
I mean, I'm just saying, if you say something slick and greasy, I ain't gonna let it slide per se. But Black America was on here a couple of days ago, and he took exception to me saying that I challenged Donovan. So first of all, Donovan ain't nobody. I'm just playing. He didn't like the word that I challenged because he says, that meant that I'm being combative per se. And I'm like, okay, all right. But, it was a spirited conversation. We learned from each other. So, yes, please, you guys do not feel afraid to come on here and speak your mind. We want to try to do this more often. Just give everybody a chance to speak their mind in real time. But, of course, Donovan and I will be back on our podcast on Tuesday. I will not be live. Of course, Walter, that will be live. We're going to be sending y'all the link again to come on and have a conversation. But, no, thank y'all. You guys make the show great. And hello to everybody that came on here. So we're going to get out of here. Love and appreciate y'all. Of course, we have ways to donate to the channel. Thank you to the members, everybody who likes, subscribes, shares, comments, whatever you do to contribute to the show. We love and appreciate you for that. See y'all later. Peace. I love y'all too.